Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Talking All Things. Today we are celebrating Old Toadface, the Time Warrior. 50 years of the Sontarans, of the Diamond logo, and of course, the lovely Sarah Jane. As ever, I am joined with Luke
Hello, everyone.
and
Sorry, my phone's just decided to start playing an
perfectly,
an
perfectly
advert.
timed.
Yeah,
Perfectly
Thought you
timed.
were
that's
having some dramatic
was-
intro music.
that's
there.
right. That's my incidental music.
That's part of the contract.
My jingle.
Mm.
Hello, everybody.
That's your
lovely.
pre-credits sting coming in a little early.
Oh yes, we were discussing the end of episode
No.
3.
We'll get to it.
We are celebrating exactly. It was this very evening that the Time Warrior transmitted in 1973. Do we know what time it was on?
5:15.
Was it 5:15?
Throw out.
Is that a guess? Is that a guess?
Yeah, that's
I mean,
a
it seems
guess.
like the
I can look it
standard.
up. It definitely was an 8:20.
No, it definitely wasn't any later than 5 something. The only Pertwee season that went out later was 6 somethings for season 8, because I noticed when I was talking about the demons recently that they were 6 something, and I was wondering if that was something to do with the controversy about the Terror of the Autons being scary, because that was what would often happen. They go, all right, we'll put it on later then, which is what happened after the Deadly Assassin row.
Yeah.
That was when it went later, and then it carried on being late throughout the Williams era. It was 6:45 or something like that. It was closer to 7 throughout the Williams era. 6 something anyway, and it'd usually been 5 something until season 18, when it was fatally put back to 5 something, directly opposite what? In season 18,
Rogers.
Buck Rogers. Yeah, that's right. They finally got a Doctor Who busting show.
But couldn't make one of their own, so they had to import it from America.
No, they couldn't make one of their own. And when they did sort of make one of their own, Space 1999, they could the different regions couldn't sort of synchronize putting it on at the same time. So it was they messed that up.
Also, it was 5:10 on Saturday. 15.
Have you just looked it up?
1973.
This was okay.
Yeah, I've looked it
yeah.
up.
Okay, very good. 5:10. 5:10. Yeah. So what? Well, let's go for you two first. What are your first memories of this memorable story?
Do you want to go, Luke?
I'm going to let you go.
All right, okay.
To be aficionado.
Okay, this was sort of a monkey on my back, this story, because my friend had it on VHS, and he would
not a toad on your back, but a monkey.
No. Or I was a bit of a chicken heart in a way.
Not
an arrow in the back of your neck.
No, in the
probing vent.
Yeah. He had it on VHS, and he used to wind me up that he had it and I didn't have it because it was now on DVD. Wait. So he had some sort of form of blackmail over me. So I kept pestering, can I come over to your house to watch it? And
flies and videotape.
Yeah, literally, it was like that.
Yeah.
And that's sort of my first memory of it, really, and loved every second of it.
So he did actually have it. He wasn't.
Yeah. He did actually. Yeah. He brought it in for like show and tell.
There was a lad called Jonathan Sullivan, who was in my class at round about early Hinchcliffe time, and he claimed he'd got a Dalek, an actual Dalek prop in his house. We were rather dubious about this, me and my best friend Jonathan O'Brien. So we went round to his house to see his Dalek.
It was just a cardboard
and curiously enough, it wasn't there. It was, according to him, he said it's at the shop being mended, which is, of course, a completely plausible. Oh, right. Oh, what a shame! What a shame we come around on the day it's being mended.
Or there's going to be a Blue Peter show about the missing Dalek.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, when was the missing Dalek scandal? Was that after Day of the Daleks? Was it Can you remember when that was?
I know it's a special.
Because I remember it being on
Daleks, so I don't know if it maybe around that time or if they just chose that one because
it's on that
Dalek
DVD
story.
I think it's on the Genesis DVD as well. I think.
I think those Blue Peter ones they do like to spread across a couple of discs, don't they?
I remember it being on Blue Peter, but I couldn't tell you. You know, obviously in the Pertwee, but I can't remember circa what story it was. But we've already digressed brilliantly as usual. So when you saw it, Ben, what was your reaction? How did you feel about it? Did you like it?
I enjoyed it a lot.
Did you know about it before? Did you know? So
I didn't know. I didn't know it was Sarah's first story because I always thought Sarah was Tom's companion. I never thought she was John's.
So you'd not seen any of season 11 at this point?
No, this was the first season 11 story I saw.
Yeah. So you'd seen quite a lot of Pertwee. You'd seen the ginger lady, of course.
Yeah, I've seen the ginger lady.
Which isn't outrageous.
The original redhead.
Excuse me, Russell, claiming that Bonnie Langford was the first redhead. Hello, as Katie would say. So what had you seen before this? You've seen quite a few Joe ones.
Yeah, I'd seen pretty much Joe and Liz, I'd say.
Oh, if you didn't know about Sarah being with the third Doctor, then that title sequence must have been as culture shocking for you as it was for Stephen at the time.
Yeah.
Well, but you'd seen the Tom Baker type.
Not as culture shocking, but certainly.
But you assumed probably that all of Pertwee had the diamond.
Yeah, that's sort of for me. This synonymous.
It was a surprise. Yeah. It was a surprise. Yeah. And you'd seen Sontarans before, presumably. You'd seen the Poison Sky.
No, Sontaran Experiment. I saw. So
the Poison Sky not been out yet.
No. This was sort of.
I see. Right. Okay.
2007, so a year before they came
You'd
back.
seen the Sontaran Experiment. Had you seen the great masterpiece that is Invasion of Time?
No. I've not seen the Hospital Corridors just yet.
Yeah. In its defense, the Invasion of Time, the reveal of the Sontarans was just impossibly exciting. The Sontarans had arrived,
and a good bit of music as well.
Oh yeah, it's great Dudley bit. It's great Dudley bit.
The way it's structured as well is quite clever in that you're so used to four-parters that does seem like the end of a four-parter, and then suddenly, no, it isn't. Yeah.
Well, I think we started to get pretty bored by it.
And
it was, oh my god, the Sontarans,
nice way to shake it up a bit.
And and I wasn't bothered by the fact they were shooting inside the TARDIS in an old mental asylum. Is it? I think it's an old mental asylum and a swimming bath, isn't it? I think. I just thought, well, why shouldn't the TARDIS be that bizarre and run down? I'm not as keen on it now as I was then. Anyway, let's get back to so you'd seen Sontaran Experiment. How did you think the two Sontarans compared between this story and Sontaran Experiment?
Links and
Style.
I think Links felt more rounded. I think I felt more invested in Links' story than Styles.
Sontarans are all pretty round.
That's true. It's the gravity, isn't it, of the situation? Well, mavity of it all.
Isn't Mavity a cat from a musical? Anyway,
cats.
That's right. He can break into safes, I think. Right. So so you were surprised that Liz Sladen was in it.
Yeah.
That was what had you seen of Tom's with her then?
I'd seen Pyramids, Genesis,
Sontaran,
and Sontaran,
yeah. Okay. So was that a wonderful surprise to see that she's actually started with?
That would have been after school reunion then, seeing it.
Yeah, so I knew who Sarah Jane was. Yeah.
What about Five Doctors?
I think I saw Five Doctors just a little bit after Time Warrior.
Yeah. And so this is all circa season 2.
Just going into series 3, yeah. So
Yeah.
around about that time, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 2006, 2007 sort of time. Yeah. Yeah, and so yeah. So it was a thumbs up for the Time Warrior.
Oh,
on
yeah.
your first
Good
viewing.
first impression.
Yeah, considering it was a story made out of a petty argument, I think it turned out pretty well.
Is that it was made out of a petty argument?
Because I don't think Bob Holmes particularly wanted to write.
No, he didn't want to do. No, he didn't. We didn't want to do a historical. No. No, he didn't. He didn't. But we can go into that a bit later.
Well, I think it was more Barry Letts who wanted it, wasn't it?
Barry and Terence
having the gimmick.
Barry and Terence wanted to do a historical story. As somebody pointed out, historical stories of the BBC at that time were great favourites of producers and accountants because they were quite cheap to do because they got all the scenery in stock. Everybody knew exactly how to do that sort of thing. Most of the actors, right. The actors, had all done sort of period dramas and knew how to sort of shout in an old-fashioned way. So they got all the trappings were all there, So it was an easy thing to do. But Bob Holmes hated the historical Doctor Who's. He thought they were boring.
He wrote 3 of the strongest ones.
Of course, but his not genius because he didn't invent the idea, of course. Dennis Spooner invents it, doesn't he? The pseudo historical. But he insists that it's got to have a science fiction element, and he refines the genre of the pseudo historical, of which there'd only really been 2 before, hadn't there? The Time Meddler, and what's the other one?
Abominable Snowman.
Well, I was thinking. I suppose it is actually. I was thinking more another Troughton story.
Which?
Come on, Troughton fan.
Oh, Evil of the Daleks.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, it's half a.
I suppose
it's like the middle chunk.
Do you know? It never occurs to me because Abominable Snowman is set in the 1930s, isn't it? So I suppose, yeah, that is sort of pseudo historical. And then Bob Holmes comes along and Evil of the Daleks. We can't see it. We can see an animated version of it. But it's Time War. I think it is the best so far of the pseudo historical. He just knows how to. For somebody who hates writing his story, as you say, of course, he becomes sort of. His pseudo stories are sort of better remembered than any of his other stories in many ways. I suppose the Autons sort of remembered, but this Pyramids of Mars and Talons of Wang Chiang are sort of amongst the most memorable in the whole series history. But yeah, for somebody who doesn't like history or writing about it, he nails the sort of dialogue. A bit of
practice as well with Carnival of Monsters. That's like the closest.
Yeah, well, that is arguably. I had a row with not a row, not an antagonistic row, but not a bitter argument. But Mark Elstob,
an intellectual
debate.
A debate, yeah. Mark, late into the night, Mark and I, when we used to have these issues. Now, if you were to say to Mark, this tea is cold, he would try and prove that it wasn't.
What about this wine? That's
just the way. Say again.
This wine is sour.
Is that from this?
Yeah,
it is, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. Fine wine. He will always play devil's advocate in any argument. So you name it, he'll have an opposite opinion about it. And so we had a debate about where I was arguing that Carnival of Monsters is a pseudo historical story. And he goes, no, it isn't, because it's not actually set in 1926. Is that the year the SS Bernice? I said, well, it's a sort of moot point, isn't it? Because they are from 926, and that is a little sort of piece of 1926 that's been captured. So in all but being on Earth, that is 1926. Well, of course, I think we argued this for about 3 hours, possibly, whether Carl wants to do a pseudo historical. But yeah, it's the same sort of flair.
I mean, there's sort of like no hint that what are they called? Not the interminants, the other ones, or is it interminor?
The Lermans. The Lermans.
There's no indication that they necessarily have time travel capabilities, so all their collection could just be from the present, and that would make around 1926 the present. Or presumably they've been in there a little while, so it's a little bit further on than that. But could
I'd never thought of that. I mean, he won it, didn't he, from a Wallerian wrestler?
Yeah, so it could have been in there for donkeys years.
So it's not Lerman technology, presumably. It's from some more sophisticated race. But yeah, it's Robert Holmes proves in Carnival Monsters that he's got a gift, whether he likes history or not, for writing very, very.
It's a bit like Douglas Camfield with how he's got a gift for directing amazing action, but he's off there wanting to do romances and stuff.
Right.
That's where his heart lie when it came to directing, like more intimate.
Yeah, you're not always good at what you want to do. You know, I always wanted to be a pianist, hence. But anyway, there we are. No interest in the theatre whatsoever. Yeah, he's brilliant at writing dialogue. The 1920s dialogue is so precise. The sort of, although it's obviously satirical and exaggerated and for comedy effect, it's still you believe Iron Grom is a real character, don't you? You know,
yeah.
That dialogue works very well, and again in Pyramids of Mars, and most effectively, I think, in Talons of Weng Chiang, the catching of the Victorian period is superb at this time. I was watching the Fires of Pompeii, and what was the other one?
Unicorn and the Wasp?
No, that wasn't too bad. The Shakespeare Code. And I was just sort of lamenting the way in which writers, is it the writers or the writers don't believe that a young modern audience are going to be able to relate to characters unless they speak like we do, you know, so they speak like people in our present day. So you get characters who just sound like, you know, somebody from whatever year that story was made. What year's the Shakespeare Code?
I mean, there is
2007, that was.
Yeah, there is some graffiti found in Pompeii though that is very not too dissimilar from the kind of gratuitous graffiti that you find.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting
today,
that there wasn't vulgarity in Latin.
Yeah, but it's not like, you know, in that sense that we haven't necessarily moved on as much as we have. But yeah, this isn't. Yeah,
no, but there's certainly different. You know, the past is a foreign country, as somebody said. You know, there are different sort of attitude. Obviously, hugely
it's going
different
for a much more modern family, but in times. Isn't it?
You know what?
I'm not deliberately playing that up.
It's fine, you know, but I suppose I find it slightly irritating. So yes, so let's. So what about you, Luke? When did you first see it?
Ooh, I mean, I feel like it was one of the ones that I saw bits of while it was on UK TV Gold.
Right.
Around, must have been 2005, 2006. Because, you know, I definitely was familiar with the Sontarans from somewhere by the time that they came around in 2008.
Well, how old were you in 2005, 2006?
Would have been 7/8.
Right, yeah.
And then... Yeah, so.
Oh, so you saw lots of bits and pieces on UK Gold, didn't you?
Yeah, but I can't really say I was watching fully, and I can never quite piece together those memories. So the first proper experience would have been when I got the Bred for War box set, all 4 classic Sontaran stories on DVD together. And I can't. That was sort of like at a time, probably around 2014 and 15,
quite late.
where
then.
I was really, where I was like really just getting loads of Classic Who DVDs.
Well, and we got Strax by then, presumably, hadn't we?
Yes, we had.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So the Suntrons have become very familiar by that point.
Mm.
And so so when you finally got to see it properly, what was your response to it?
Certainly very good first impressions. And I think, they've not really changed since then, I don't think. Like, you do have some stories that you fall in and out of love with as time goes on, and some that you grow to appreciate more as time passes, as you go back and rewatch it, reevaluate. Opinions change as we grow. We're different people all through our lives, as Matt Smith said before, turning into Peter Capaldi. But no, this is one of those ones that I think has remained the same, really, in my estimations. Always a very strong and always very reliable to throw on and have a good time with. I think partially helped by it being one of the few Pertwee historicals
and 4-parter as well. It's often, I mean, I love everything about the Pertwee era, and I wouldn't want any of those stories to be any shorter than they are. However, when you got a 4-parter, I was like, oh, thank God it's a 4-parter this time. I don't have to wade through the sort of the episode 3 doldrums, the escape and recapture stuff, So this one whizzes along very, 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 very sort of trippingly, doesn't it?
All the season openers as well, being 4 parts, feel very punchy season openers. You can tell that they're there to open up again, reintroduce the audience to what Doctor Who is in many ways.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that not many eras really do too often. Like, you've got stories like Mask of Mandragora, which just feels like, another 4th Doctor story in a way.
It's it's possibly, for my money, the weakest Hinchcliffe story. It's that and Android Invasion. I think I'm more I don't know which I'm more likely to put on. I'm not likely voluntarily to go, oh, I can't wait to put on. Do you know what I really feel like tonight? The Mask of Mandragora. I don't think I've ever thought that in my life.
I've certainly felt that about Android Invasion.
Well, I
enjoyed it
Android's
and
got
started
more
regretting it by the
moments,
time I
remember.
got part 3.
I loved Android Invasion when it first went out. Because the first cliffhanger, when you could Stigran's eye, in the mask, because it looked quite good there.
I mean, it looks like as well.
It does, and that's a very, very sinister episode, and Sarah's face coming off the end of episode 2, which was Hinchcliffe's idea. He said we need, because he was big on the impact of the cliffhangers bringing the audience back next week. So it was his idea to insert that of the face coming off. So that was very exciting, and I was very caught up in the atmosphere, and I didn't notice, as I do now, how rubbish the Kralls are as a design, and how sort of forgettable they are as characters. And how silly Guy Crayford, the eye patch business is.
There's a lot that once you start picking falls apart with that stuff.
Well, Milton Johns is a lovely actor in so many other things, but he's probably the least convincing astronaut I think I've ever seen depicted. Anyway, never mind.
Maybe it was before he was put back together by the Kralls.
By the Kralls.
If that even happened.
They put him back together rather poorly.
Where does this go?
So anyway, never mind. Let's move back to my first memory, of course, is the first transmission.
Would it be the Radio Times special? Was it out before Time Warrior aired?
Always got prepared.
It was, well, you'll notice in the Radio Times listings from Time Warrior onwards, it advertises this as being available from episode 1 of the Time Warrior. So it must have been. I didn't see it until Jonathan O'Brien had it in the playground round about Death to the Daleks time. So in the so it was obviously on sale, up to Christmas and into 74. But what was so I didn't. It must have been extraordinarily exciting and tantalizing for the kids at the time, because for the very first time you would have foreshadowing of the stories that were coming up they hadn't seen yet. So because when I read this, I didn't realize that these little synopses were of stories that people hadn't seen. So you got little synopsis of the 5 stories in the season. So no, I hadn't seen that yet, but in black and white, of course. It's funny, I can just picture exactly where the television was. It was the television used to move. We had a back room and a front room and a room off the kitchen, and the telly seemed to move from room to room. I remember exactly what room the telly was in when whichever story was on.
Did it do it like the mad policeman's helmet in Mind of Evil?
It just transmatted itself around the house.
Everything started to squiggle a bit in your eyesight.
Can one of you do the sound effect?
Wow. Sorry, man. And you got like the music.
Yes. That's on Terence on the commentary for the Mind of Evil. He says only in Doctor Who could you have something extraordinarily surreal as this mad policeman's helmet transmitting itself around and zapping people. It is bizarre, isn't it? So yeah, memories are just thinking Lynx was amazing as a monster. I think I don't remember being scared by him. I just remember thinking he was bloody, what a great character he was.
Bloody impressive makeup work.
It is arguably it's between that and Davros, isn't it? The original Davros for me is the greatest.
I think Draconians get a slot in there as well.
Yeah, well, it's all John Friedlander, who is a sculptor.
Zygons stand up quite well.
Zygons are pretty bloody good as well. But the great thing about Lynx is there's just one of him. And it's not just the mask, it's Kevin Lindsay's performance is just superb. I
think the whole costume and the culture that's created about them in this one story.
Yeah. It was based. Robert Holmes said he based the Sontarans on 19th century military Germanic attitudes. So the sort of the German military class in the 19th century, which was a totally sort of militaristic mentality and the glory of war and etc., which of course finds its way into the 20th century. But it's just that amazing mask, which you don't doubt for a second. It's so beautifully blended into his face, isn't it? And just how extraordinarily it's those scenes with him in Pertwee, and it's a paradigm example of Barry Letz's ethos at this time. That the director saying to the directors, I keep saying it, you treat Doctor Who like it's the most serious piece of drama, and actors don't be knowingly in a silly kids series, a pantomime. You treat those characters, you treat these situations with as much conviction and sense of reality as any other drama, and it's just such great power in the interaction between Pertwee and Lindsay and Lindsay and Iron Guy. I love David Dacre's performance as well. So a great, not that sort of wonderful thing of actors not being afraid on television to give a big theatrical performance and just really going for it with his voice, and that the way it sort of echoes and reverberates
I think it's wonderful when you have a world created in Doctor Who that you feel like the Doctor and companion are just stepping into, like it's a living, breathing one. You don't feel
those
like
first
everything
6
just
minutes
starts.
are so establishing the world
Yeah.
and everything within it.
Yeah.
You have some Doctor Who stories where it feels like, everything just suddenly appears when the TARDIS arrives, and too much plot sort of happens for the sake of it. Whereas here, it feels like there is a history there. You have that dynamic already set up between Iron Gron and the Earl of Wessex.
Yeah.
It does. Really feel like it's already all in motion, and like you say, certainly helped then by the fact that the Doctor doesn't necessarily come into the past until quite late on, and it's
about 6 minutes. Is it 6 minutes before before the Doctor arrives?
Before the Doctor shows up in the little cubicles.
In the scene with the Brigadier. And it's so that wonderful thing that Robert Holmes could do, where he could write characters that are they're real, but there's the comedy there isn't sort of exaggerated to the extent that they're sort of cartoonish. They're just exaggerated enough to be amusing without it teetering over into some sort of parody. You never stop believing that they exist as people.
It almost feels like Saywood sort of copied the blueprint of Time Warrior with the Visitation.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of similarities there with Michael Robbins' character and the start of the Visitation as well.
With setting up, having the long preamble.
Yeah.
With the family, with Fred Elliott from Coronation Street, who plays plays whatever John Savant's name of the actor. Well, of course, I mean, Saywood was hugely influenced, wasn't he, by Robert Holmes, and thought he was the best, as many others did, and tried to get him on the show.
Struck up a great friendship with him towards the end of his life. It's
very silent. I got these charcoals to draw with, and I remember drawing links with this black charcoal in my back of exercise books. So over and over, trying to recreate what he looked like from memory, and the ending is just that's the because bear in mind, I didn't see it again between 1973-4 and when it came out on VHS, which I think was 1989. So this was, of course, the experience that in those days that you just wouldn't see them, and all you'd remember what your memories of it were, and the memory of the Hal's arrow going into the Provic vent is one of the most vivid memories. Yeah, it's a great noise, isn't it? It's one of the most vivid memories of all, from Pertwee Doctor Who, and
an iconic shot in more ways than one.
Yes.
And the strange thing I've told you about the thing about the title sequence was, I don't remember thinking, oh, the title sequence has changed. What I do remember is, I might have said this before, that when the Sea Devils was repeated between episodes 4 and 5 or 5 and 6 of Planet of the Spiders, I was surprised that it was like, oh, I'd forgotten that was what the titles were like. I just, within that year, as a child, a year is a long time, isn't it? When you're 5 or 6, was that 5 or 6? So I'd replaced in my memory all the Pertwee stories with the new title sequence, and then the season. Oh God, yeah, that was what it was like,
Wow.
But I don't remember being surprised by the title sequence in the Time Warrior. That I possibly was, but it's not a memory that stayed with me. I think I immediately fell in love with the new titles, and just thought the way that Pertwee's face, somebody said it looks like this sort of cling film over his face, and it's very, very sort of sinister. That sort of the way the way his face is it appears or disappears. That sort of it appears, isn't it?
He appears, yeah.
He appears, and it's just really, really quite. It's very sort of ghostly and spooky, actually, isn't it? I remember just thinking, oh my god, that's really weird, brilliantly weird. So yeah, those are
the first title sequence actually made in color as well. Because
yes, that's right. The first one was black and white, and then they colorized it, didn't they? Because they couldn't get the color cameras to do the howl round. Yeah, and so then didn't see it again. Of course, read this many times, and on a lovely memory on this, because Doctor Who kids lost interest, normaloid kids, the not we children, sort of kind of weren't really bothered by
chicken-hearted knaves.
Quite. He uses it. Poltroon is a favourite insult of Robert Holmes. He uses it in this and in The Deadly Assassin. In fact, there's a badge somewhere with the word poltroon in it. But there was a renaissance in normal kids, taking interest in Doctor Who in the early 80s. In season 19, Earthshocky time. I think Earthshock really woke people up and thought, oh god, actually Doctor Who's really good again, or it can be impressive to a modern audience. So it was a French exchange I was going on in this just the Easter after Earthshock had finished, after Time Flight. And as the Falklands War was breaking out, we were sailing from Portsmouth with all these warships, and we were going, what the hell's going on? And then when I got to France, Thatcher was on the telly every night. We were trying to work out what was going on, seeing it all in French. Anyway, that's another story. Mm-hmm. On the way over, on this minibus on the way to the ferry, this lad called Matt O'Shea was reading. He was a normal kid, but was reading this. And he was sitting a couple of seats in front of me, and he suddenly went and he laughed out loud. I said, "What is it?" He said, it's a great description of John Pertwee here, a long-shanked rascal with a mighty nose," and it had made him laugh out loud. Reading this. This is, of course. Have you read this?
No.
This is what is odd about the prologue. Prologue. Oh God, I hate that word. I never know how it's pronounced. What is odd? What is an anomaly about the prologue in comparison with the rest of the?
I sincerely hope it's not Robert Holmes's descriptions of how Sontarans reproduced that he handed over to Bob Baker and Dave Martin.
You're on the right lines, but it's nothing so controversial. Robert Holmes was contracted to write the novelization. I don't think he wrote any others. And he'd always said, I hate writing prose because it's like digging trenches, He just liked to do dialogues, but just, all the descriptions of everything else
the menial
was boring to him. And so Terence, on the commentary, actually, on the time, he said, so the publishers got in touch with me, and they said, Bob's very late with this. He's not come up with the goods. And so he said, what are you going to do about it? So I said, well, I'll give him a ring. And he said, yeah. He said, I'll have it next week, he said. And anyway, about a week later, he said, the prologue, which is in the book, turned up on my doorstep. And he said, here it is. You do the rest of it. And so the prologue is Robert Holmes, and the rest of it is Terence Dixon. And Terence said, and when I read it, I was really envious. He said, because the prose is fantastic, it's wonderful. He said, but then I realized that to write to that level, would take me about 3 years, and that's why he only came.
I mean, it took Rob Holmes that.
Yeah, well,
taking him that long.
Well, Terence was churning out one a month at the time, I think. This is actually not bad, but it gets. This is a very early 80s, but a couple of years later. No,
I suppose he'd have felt a bit shown up if he didn't write the rest of it to a similar standard as the prologue.
The prologue. I can't remember what standard the rest of it's written to now. I think it's okay. It's not the worst, and it's certainly not the thinnest of the novels. So hang on, when does it come out? When does it come out? 78.
Wonder if we'll see any of the not we reading Church on Ruby Road out in public now.
Oh, no.
That's got a
I'm saying nothing.
lovely heart.
Well, we haven't seen it yet. We haven't seen it
No.
yet. We can't judge it yet until we've seen it.
But it certainly seems to be pushing for a more mainstream reedy audience that are dropping the target styling, at least with the hardback.
Let's not. I see. Is he writing it? Who's writing?
No, it's a different writer. I think someone who probably writes a lot more prose.
Because Davis did Rose, didn't he?
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good.
I can't remember if he did any other ones.
No, that's the only one.
And Moffat did Day of the Doctor.
Yeah, that's very Moffat.
Have you read it?
I think he had.
I've got it, and I've never got around to it.
Did Paul Cornell do Twice Upon a Time?
Yeah, that's very paint by numbers, one I'd say.
Paul Cornell did Twice Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Okay. Did he do any of his own? Paul Cornell.
I don't think
he hasn't novelized. There's been no novelizations of Father's Day or
no, they've not done
Nature.
those yet. No.
Well, there is a novel of Human Nature, but it's the other way around.
Yeah. I know because it was based on his own previous book. So then there was that, and then there was the VHS coming out in 1989, and I was ill. I was at university at the time. I was supposed to be rehearsing a play. I was supposed to be rehearsing a production, Measure for Measure, and I got something. I never get ill, but I did for once. And so I was sort of at home, and I think the Ark in Space and the Time Warrior came out at the same time on VHS. You could check that, but that's my memory. And of course, I'd seen and been to an extent disappointed by the Ark in Space comparative to my memories, because this is, of course, you never have that experience of not seeing it for years.
Nah.
You can just rewatch, so you never get that. Oh my God, that's not how I remember it, because you can.
I mean, if there is any like that, it's the ones that we didn't enjoy enough the first time to want to go back to for a while.
Right? Yeah. Well, you might be pleasantly surprised by something,
Invasion of Time is one of those ones for me that I've definitely maybe 8 years.
Yeah. It's been a while for me. I think I occasionally have a go at it, and then I get, oh God, I can't do it.
But yeah, certainly it's not the same thing, especially when we've still got images out there all the time, clips.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can't. It's very difficult, isn't it, to not see any story for any length of time. And it's funny, isn't it? Because my friend Joshua Scales, who's there's loads of stories he hasn't seen, but he's seen most of them, because there's loads of bloody clips on YouTube and everything. And I think it's in a way it's a shame, isn't it? Because there are no surprises if you've seen all the best bits.
Yeah, the highlights.
All the highlights. It's not going to be
the boring bits in between.
It's not going to be an overwhelming novel experience, is it? And so the Time Warrior. In 1989, I remember being. Because, of course, this is the problem. We read the novelization. So you got used to that, the production values that the prose allows for, and your imagination. So you've built it up in your mind. And I remember the thing that most disappointed me was the bloody robot. I remember thinking, oh, that's just bloody stupid.
It's very Wurzel Gummidge, I think, the robot.
Of course. The voice that John Pertwee uses as the monk is the voice is a sort of, it's like Wurzel Light, isn't it?
Yeah.
We come to beg arms of your what's he called? Iron Grin, doesn't he? And it's the voice that he'd used as the postman in the radio series Waterlogged Spa, which of course then he augments for Wurzel Gummidge. But yeah, no, the in the book, I think that the robot is, super technologically advanced and is like a real proper swordsman. But this ludicrous, just up and down or side to side, isn't it? I think, oh god,
because that's not
bloody
really
lame, isn't it?
even production value thing. That's like an artistic choice because they could have done it more human-like because it's not like it's a robot in the suit; it's a man in the suit.
I think, yeah, I think
got it right.
Second,
Robot Sherwood got it right in the end.
I like Robot Sherwood. Yeah, that's the only sort of that's the only sort of really clunky thing in it.
Yeah.
And
that's another one I've not watched in 8 years.
That's
Robot
good.
Sherwood.
It's a good one. That.
I don't think there's Series 8 is very strong, apart from what's that?
In the forest of
Caretaker.
the shite.
Oh yeah.
Is that the weakest? What are the? Is there another really weak one?
I'd have said Caretaker. Oh yeah, Kill the Moon.
Moons and eggs.
But the aspects of it, it's very, very strange. But I think the performances are very strong in it. There's nothing. It's not a write-off. It's a bizarre.
I think there's a similar marketing thing to what was that story that was said to be like the scariest one ever?
Terminus.
Yeah, Terminus. There you go. There's sort of like a similar thing to that because in Doctor Who magazine there was a quote from Stephen Moffat where he said, "I told Peter Harness to Hinchcliffe the shit out of this."
Oh right, is that where that quotation comes from?
Yeah. Okay. And it's definitely not
right.
That.
No, which bit did you Hinchcliffe the shit out of, Peter?
Probably when Peter's sort of wrestling the rubber spider.
It's the spiders, is it? It's the spiders.
Yeah, the germs, isn't it, or something?
Yeah.
Oh, they're antibodies, are they? Something like that. Yeah. That old thing. Yeah, that's not the strongest. Certainly not the strongest story. But no, I think the rest of that season is pretty solid. Pretty solid. The Caretaker's not. It's fine. It's fine. The Caretaker. It's sort of silly and it works on its own levels.
Oh, yeah. Also, I looked up the VHS dates.
Yep.
Ark in Space was 5th of June 89, and then Time Warrior came along 7th of August 89.
Okay, so it was that summer. I think that was right. I probably been busy until August and then got them both together.
Although if you were Australian or in Australia at the time, you'd have got Ark in Space 1st of January 89.
Those Aussie bastards, always getting
rare occasions,
getting stuff
they come out.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because was that Time Warrior was the.
You'll never guess who got the better cover though.
For the VHS,
yeah,
I think we definitely got a better.
I remember the Ark in Space cover for the VHS was crap.
Oh, it's
absolutely
with the
crap.
Australian one, it's just a picture of the Wirren.
As I recall, I mean, a shame I haven't kept the VHS. I've got Revenge of the Cybermen because it was the first one, and Ambassador of Death because it keeps going from black and white to color, and a few others. And I should have kept them really. They're so bloody bulky, aren't they? But yeah, the Ark in Space cover was terrible. What was on the cover of the? I can't even remember the cover. I presume Lynx was on the cover of.
I think it was John and Liz, and then sort of Lynx.
Yes, now it's coming back to me. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's a great Jeff Cummins, though, isn't it? That one. Is it Jeff Cummins? I think it is. Yeah, just such a great look, isn't it? Whatever you're doing. And so that was the main disappointment with it. And that was the. I think we'd only had Death to the Daleks on VHS before that, which was 86 or 7. Oh, there it is. Look at that. There's the word. I mean, how can you make the Wirren look even crapper than they actually? Robert Holmes said of the Wirren costumes that they looked like knackered Muppets. He was very disappointed by the costumes, but that's just terrible.
And
Oh,
there's
that's
what
good.
Australia got.
Oh, that's cool. That's quite scary. Yeah, that's good. Lucky them. Yeah, what we said.
Finally, here's
Jeff,
what we had for the story we're meant to be talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. No, well, what's he doing? Looks like he's scratching his helmet there.
So, giving his eye an itch, like poking it through the eye hole.
Oh,
You-
yeah.
You don't see the eyes in the helmet, do you? They're sort of his eyebrows.
They've got like a
They're not aligned with
mesh
the
Yeah.
helmet as well.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. No. I mean, they should. Now I see it. Of course, the many times. Yeah. Can you check that? Was Death to the Daleks 86 or 87, and this was only the second?
Oh, yeah, I'll have a look.
I think the next one was Planet of the Spiders after this, which was about early 90s. Death to the Daleks
13th of July, 1987. Was
87.
Death to
That's
the
right.
Daleks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then this was this. So that was the only story we'd seen from this season. No. Aside from that, I loved it. Aside from the robot, it was nothing like I remembered it. Apart from, Link's being amazing and the arrow, but it'd all been filtered through the novel. That is nothing wrong with that.
Is that the unedited one without the cliffhangers, like the omnibus?
That was yeah. Well, they had the same cover. No, they had the same cover, but then that's complete and unedited, so they put the cliffhangers back in. But they used the same cover. Although the complete and unedited one had cuts that weren't in the one that had cut out the cliffhangers. Really odd ones, like there's a line of Pertwees. Myself chiefly. That's when you say, who are you trying to fool? Myself chiefly. This disappears in this version of Death of the Daleks. Oddly. I think it was they used an Australian print. And maybe Australians were afraid of the phrase myself chiefly. I don't know. Because they tend to cut out frightening bits, didn't they? But
for the fun of it.
Pardon?
Thrown up links for the fun of it.
Well, you can never. You see, that's one of the great cliffhangers, isn't it? The first cliffhanger. That's a textbook example of how to reveal the monster at the end of episode 1, and that wonderful holding it on as the cliffhanger sting comes in with him looking around and obscenely sticking his tongue out.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic.
Jingo Links.
Jingo Links is what
that's his full name.
Robert Holmes called him in that. Because the synopsis that Robert Holmes prepared for Terrance Dicks wasn't a normal synopsis. It was some sort of communication between two Terrancedics from Holmes. It was a sort of as though they were sort of alien, whatever, I don't know. And it was all part of him being irritated by having to do it. So he was doing everything in a sort of arse about face sort of way. But that's where he called him Jingo Links, I think, first time. Although that's not referred to in the story. So yeah, that was when I saw it again, and it is one that's just is it the best story of that season?
Might very well. For me, it's between that and Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs is superb. It's just a shame about the dinosaurs. You can forgive the robot in this over the dinosaurs, which is a serious detriment. But this is such a wonderful story. Which was the highest.
This has some disappointing effects as well, but they're in small doses, like the ship coming down, the exploding castle.
It's very interesting that Barry Letts wanted to direct this, but they didn't have the time. He didn't have the time because they were setting up Moonbase 3, and so reluctantly he handed over direction duties to Alan Bromley. And Alan Bromley, what's the latest story that Alan Bromley directs?
Nightmare of Eden.
Disastrously, yeah.
Yeah. It brings back David Dacre as well.
That's right. Yes, indeed. Alan Bromley had been a very prolific and successful director of drama in the live days, and then he'd stopped directing and become a very successful producer. And this is the first time he'd come back to direct television. And Barry Letts said this was positive in some ways and negative in others. What was great about it was he did everything at its most simple. He made the simplest possible choices. So it was very basically shot. So he wouldn't do anything elaborate or whatever. To the extraordinary extent that we finished by 9:30 in the studio. So we finished early, which was unprecedented. And Pertwee was just astonished that they weren't racing, against the clock and the plugs being pulled. And Barry Letts, and sometimes, the scenes on the commentary where Barry Letts is critical.
Probably gave Liz Sladen a false sense of security.
Possibly, yeah.
Finishing that shocking by the time she got round to Invasion.
Doddle, isn't it? And the scenes like when Hal and Sarah are eavesdropping through the window, and Barry says that's just so sort of early live television. It's just so stupid that they're clearly visible in the window there, and he's just made a very simple choice. So it was very easy to shoot the scene and then to have them having been at the window all the time. And Barry said there should be more, but I think it's really efficiently directed. I've got absolutely no problems with any of it. And in fact, a lot of it is the camera's always in the right place at the right time, which is not always the case in Doctor Who. There's no sort of, I don't think there's any boom shadows in it. There's no sort of clunky bits, or it all works beautifully because he has sort of just let it act itself out rather like a play, and it's so well cast.
Yeah,
and the lighting's
given a good script, so he's just let that speak for itself.
Yeah, and the lighting's great, and the of course they got a very good film cameraman who was Max Samet, who currently he did quite a number of them at the time, and he was highly regarded and was very good at. But all
everyone to do their jobs really.
Yeah, but that the location stuff's great. Oh, that's right. Barry Letts said, he said yes, Alan couldn't be bothered with the rollback and mix. And so the TARDIS, it shouldn't have arrived like that because he pans across the trees to find the TARDIS already materialized. So you hear the TARDIS materialization and it's a pan across the trees, and Barry's critical of it. I go, well, that's really great because it's a bit boring every time to see the TARDIS arriving. Why not do it differently to have
better than
across the trees
in space?
Just pop, yeah. Just
I think maybe because it's season opener, Barry's like, this is maybe the mechanics of the show.
I think it's because he was pissed off that he wasn't directing himself, so he's probably a lot more critical.
Yeah, overly critical because it's I would have done that differently.
I think so, and I think he got all enthusiastic about it. He really liked the script, and he thought, it's a great season opener, and I can do what I did with Terror of the Autons and give a real sort of zing in opening. Of course, in a sense, and Carnival of Monsters, although it wasn't the first, it was the first story shot, wasn't it, of the previous season? And so he liked to do the first story of the season.
I think it was partially because that was when he could get away with it in terms of contract with producer, in terms of because it was at the end of the production block.
That's right, because this was shot
a loophole
immediately after Green Death. It was part of the season 10 production block, actually. So it was filmed in May. Oh, that's interesting. It was shot. This is the furthest north they ever went.
Cheshire, isn't it?
Yeah,
Warwick, isn't it? Warwick Castle.
It's Peckforton Castle, which is not a real medieval castle. It's a Victorian folly. But this is shot on my birth, all the locations of is the 8th, 9th, and 10th of May. So on the 9th of May was my birthday, my 5th birthday, and the Easter holidays have been about a week before, 2 weeks before, and this is true. We went to visit Peckforton Castle in the Easter holidays about a week before they were filming it, and I often think how sort of tantalizing that is that we were sort of there a week before. If only if only they'd been filming a week earlier, we'd have coincided with the filming of it. But yes, quite near me, up there, quite near. It's sort of near Nantwich in Cheshire. But that was the furthest north I went because it's perfect because it's a medieval castle that has no damage to it because it's not real, so it looks like it's just been built, which is as I think it's what Rubish says. It's very well preserved because it's new.
I mean, that would be a studio, that bit, but
yeah, exactly.
I think you're overdoing the sordid realism a bit.
He's great, Rubish, isn't he? And he's got some great lines. He seemed a bit old for that sort of thing. Is a great line,
going to find a young girl.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost a shocking line that they slipped into Doctor Who, but the implications of.
Well, implications that at this time had never occurred to anybody else but Professor Rubish. It seems he's the only character who ever has any sort of it makes any sort of dodgy inference about the relationship. That's Robert Holmes being mischievous again.
I mean, you have that wonderful line early on about I've not seen my wife and kid for 3 days.
Yeah,
still,
there's a line.
There's a silver lining.
Exactly brilliant. There's a line that was cut where he talks about women not having the brains for science, but Barry went, no, we can't have that because Barry being very progressive for his time, and desperately trying to bring in women's lib.
Hilarious watching the behind the scenes documentary and having Terence just say, "But at the time, somewhat to my annoyance, was the rise of feminism."
I know. Well, it's funny, isn't it? The sort of different people's attitude because watching that Nick Briggs Mythmakers interview with Sarah with Elizabeth, and she said, "Oh, you know, Barry and the writing, it was all about women's lib." I always found that a bit irritating, really, all that women's lib stuff. I didn't really want to think about that.
Well, it's gone by Tom, isn't it? It's not. It's only in sort of season 11.
It's rather clunky the way it's put in. The way she always. She'll have a sort of a bit of a sort of rather feminism for 5-year-olds lecture to some character. Here, the serving wench, isn't it? And the same to
what subservient poppycock.
Queen. Is that yes? Yeah. Terrible line.
I mean, she's a fairly strong character in this. Look, she's wearing the trousers in that relationship.
Who is
June Brown?
Oh, June. Dot. Yeah.
Lady Eleanor.
Oh. Yeah. It's you just keep expecting it to light up a fag, don't you? You know, it's just.
I think that's what Jeremy Bullock said in here. Behind the scenes as well. Yeah.
I've not watched that for ages. I didn't watch it this time. Now, there's the thing: the idea of Hal the Archer being a companion. Which was the part of the thinking there was. They knew there was going to be a new Doctor, and they were thinking they might have cast an older, and which is what happened with Harry Sullivan, of course.
Yes,
well, that's bizarre. They're all, you know, I love Bilal, but I don't want him to lead Exelon. Thank you very much. And Hal the Archer's fine, but I don't want to see him in Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
I mean, it'd be interesting how he'd go about doing Planet of the Spiders then, with Hal the Archer wandering around, because everyone's sort of very contemporary to that, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because Sarah's obviously off doing her journalism.
It's very, very. This was a lesson. This was not a lesson, but it was a discovery that they made with Katerina. That was the reason why she was written out so quickly. It was just so difficult having a character who didn't know anything about, you know, was so far back in history. Of course, they pulled it off with Jamie. To have a character from a relatively barbaric age, but I think so. The 18th century is probably as far back as you want to go. But you
I
go back
suppose
to
it
the
helps
Middle
that he
Ages,
sticks
and that,
around for so long.
yeah,
that they
yeah.
sort of, you
yeah,
accept.
he
that
very
picks
he
things
very
up.
quickly assimilates, doesn't he? And so it's just so his old fashioned attitudes are sort of left as for comic value at times, often sort of amusingly sexist views. Yeah. But no, I don't think Hal the Archer would have worked. So certainly not with Tom Baker Doctor. I think I just
He
can't
sort
see
of
that
doesn't
at
have
all.
enough character really within this.
He's not. He's just not very interesting, is he, Hal the Archer?
I think he does what he needs to do.
With the greatest
He looks
respect,
cool.
Jeremy.
He looks like
fine.
yeah.
He looks like he knows what to do with a bow and arrow, and that's about it, isn't it? Really, you know.
That's the character.
That's the character. That's it. That's it. Yeah, no, great. It's a really, really good cast, and it's great to see old Alan Rowe. What are the other parts that Alan Rowe, who plays the Earl of Wessex, played?
Ooh,
Troughton fan, come on.
No, it's not coming to me.
Okay. Imagine him with black veins on his face.
One of the scientists in Moonbase.
In Moonbase. He's the one who's in... he's got control of the gravitron. He's a really sinister...
Is he
turns around.
Dr. Evans?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. And they go, oh, shit, he's in control of the gravitron. And he also does the voice of Moon Control in that story. But he's in a Tom Baker story, which is probably his finest moment. He's excellent in the. Oh no, and he's also he's in 2 Tom Baker stories. Alan Rowe. So he's in a.
Is it Horror of Fang Rock?
Yeah, he's skin in Horror of Fang Rock. He's brilliant in that part. I think it's just absolutely spot on. Again, there's that sort of writing. My voice is echoing back to me. Writing, because that's Robert Holmes getting his revenge on Terrance Dicks with Horror of Fang Rock, wasn't it? Because he said, I don't know anything about lighthouses, Bob. And he said, well, go and get the kids' book of lighthouses from the library, like I did with the Middle Ages.
Both dragged, kicking and screaming.
Yeah, but it's
like Sarah.
Drag kicking and screaming into the. But it's that ability those writers had to catch the dialogue that sounds like it's plausible to the time. You know, it's just perfectly captures the Edwardian era. Horror of Fang Rock, as this catches something sort of that you think of sounds awful. Who knows what this spoke like in whatever year this is set, sometime in the Crusades, isn't it? And he's also in a later
Full
Tom
Circle.
Yeah, one of the Deciders,
He's
isn't it?
Decider Gareth, yeah. And I'm the Doctor. So yeah, I've no problems with this story at all. Liz Sladen hits the ground running. It's a wonderful performance. The energy when she's doing all that stuff, when she thinks she's trying to work out where she is. That long when they say when she's crazed, Captain. A pity she's not uncomely. And she's just gabbling. It's brilliantly played, that. And she's sort of going up and up those stairs and just the energy.
Making good use of the set.
Making very good use of the set, absolutely. And again, I think Alan Bromley's style of directing is because he lets it play out like a play. So the actors are dictating the pace, and she's got the chops to do it. Brilliant. And it's wonderful to have the sort of the new conceit. Is it the first time a companion's ever thought the Doctor was a villain? In her first story, the misunderstanding that he's I'm trying to think if that's ever happened before.
Certainly a companion who most takes charge as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like rallies other characters around her.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And when they say, she has the heart of a, what is it? Was it the Earl of Wessex describes?
Is it heart of a warrior or heart of a fighter?
Something like that. But it's not. It's then you say, yeah, I know she does. It's amazing because she's displayed that courage and ingenuity. So it's a really strong first story for her, and she really delivers. And there's just.
I mean, the only other time that companions really think the Doctor is the villain would be Ian and Barbara, and they're kind of right.
Exactly. Very good point.
So.
Very good point. And he is. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's a bastard, isn't he? At that point, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's the only comparable relationship. Just never failed repeatedly to be impressed by her charm, the way she always makes the dialogue, however clunky the dialogue is, she'll sell it. She'll find a way of saying it, you know. And she said she developed a sort of telepathy, as it were, with a lot of the directors, and she said, you know, because often it's not, you know, tactful or to say, I want to change this line. This is what I've noticed. Katie does this somewhere else, and she didn't say, I'm going to change that. She said, what I would do is I just say the line I want to say, and I look up, and Barry or the director, because it would be Maloney or the repeated directors that she do, and they just go like that. That's fine, you know. So she'd just change it and go look at it and go there, yeah, you know. And
she's not asking for permission. She's
no, she just yeah, okay. Just having done it and proved that it works, I suppose, is a good way to request a change.
Especially when it's something like that, where you want it to seem natural, and so if you're doing it in that moment, that's when you're most going to see it as a
Nick Briggs
performance.
Nick Briggs says to me, you know, as you know, I make a lot of changes, and he said, well, he said, generally speaking, he said, you know, if an actor wants to say a line, a particular, or to replace a line with another line, you know, unless it's absolutely appalling, it makes perfect sense to let him do it, because the actor's going to sound better saying a line they want to say than a line they don't want to say. So, you know, what's the problem unless it's wrong, you know?
And also sometimes there's things that you'll write that look absolutely fine, but said aloud don't flow quite well, because writing is very different to speaking.
You know the Harrison Ford line about Star Wars, don't you? He said to George Lucas, he said, "You might be able to write this shit, but you can't say it." And a lot of writing, you know, is television writing. Writing is that's written very, very quickly by people, you know, up against the clock who are not being paid a lot. They haven't put, you know, every ounce of ingenuity into it, or you know, it's often quite generic and formulaic. So an actor can then sort of improve it. They should be bloody grateful.
I mean, there's another quote. It's not fucking Shakespeare. Who was
that
from?
Who? No. Yeah. I can't remember who that was. So where were we? Oh yes, that's right. So Elizabeth Sladen. There's never, you can never spend too much time praising Elizabeth Sladen. No. Often you'll be like a line, you'll go, my God, that's a crap line, but you made it sound really good.
There's conviction there, and there's always truth.
Always. And Nick sent me a little clip of Liz in some early 70s police drama. She was playing a policewoman, and he said, look at this. She said she's only got 3 lines, but she wrings every last drop of meaning and, you know, truth from them. And he said, and then in a later scene, she's got an office which is you can sort of see through a frosted glass thing, the Liz character, and the scene going on. And he said, you can see Elizabeth doing all this business in the background, sort of as the character, just sorting out the files, and it's just so detailed and precise, even though she's not even in the scene that's focused on, you know. And that's, you know, the value of an actress like that who is so talented and really, really puts the work and is committed.
Never over exit. Like, she's making the most out of those lines.
She makes the most of it. Absolutely never
in a natural way.
Oh yeah, no, she's never sort of gratuitously scene stealing or doing, or drawing attention to herself in a vain sort of way. It's just
She always feels like a character, not an actor.
You totally believe Sarah exists, don't you? And yeah, there's no sense of the person pulling the strings underneath it. And
just the little looks as well. I think just the little head movements. It just adds more.
Yeah.
The sense of presence. She's there even when she's not. It's great.
I mean, Barry Letts, of course, said about how he interviewed so many
500
for this role. Yeah,
500.
And so many of them were good at showing him scared. A lot of them were good at showing him brave, but she was the only one who
do them both together.
And that's always present throughout any story she's in. And I think that's what makes her so quintessential as the Doctor Who companion, because those are the two sides you really want. You want somebody who's scared to, help boost up the monsters a bit, but also you don't want sort of like an annoying screamer who's just going to be getting in the way and dragging the plot down. Padding it out for 6 episodes by getting captured. She is able to sell that bravery as well. You can believe that she's someone who would want to travel through time and space, get a kick out of that, get a kick out of the adventure and the danger, but not in a way that she's sociopathically enjoying it.
No.
There's a nice, wonderful realism.
As Philip Hinchcliffe said, she could play the perils of Pauline, which is the silent film archetype of the heroine who's in peril. She could play that 500 different ways, and it was always new. I was just sort of mesmerized by how many changes, innovations she could make with what seemed to be a repetitious series of situations and reactions, but she'd always do something to surprise you. Going, wow, she's done something different again with something that could have been the same. No, nobody's done it better, I don't think, than Elizabeth Sladen. She's rightly.
I mean, she gets to sort of do the same thing twice with Sontarans, where she has that initial reaction to both Lynx and Styre, and gets to do something very different with both of those scenes.
The same with Davros as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh well, that's probably the most sort of memorable moment for me of the big Davros finale of the Tennant story was her, Sladen's recognizing Davros. Obviously that's going to be powerful for me because Genesis is the most sort of memorable story of all. But no, it's just that sort of calling back to her first encounter. Brilliant.
Her first reaction to the TARDIS, seeing that again in school reunion as well.
Oh, super
wonderful stuff.
No, she's a class act.
Yeah, turning to the chat a second because we're going.
Is anybody there?
Minutes. Yeah, and some people have surprisingly enough been watching. Yeah, we did click the go live button, didn't we, Ben?
Yeah. There seems to be a live thing in the corner, so I think we're all good.
Yeah, hello to everyone who is watching. Hope you are enjoying what we've had to say about the Time Warrior and
tangents.
Doctor Who tangents. Yeah, surrounding it.
The tangents are the best bits.
I mean, one of our Joe Bowers has commented on one of our tangents and brought up a very important point about Sarah Kingdom. Dalek's master plan thinks Stephen and the Doctor are the bad guys in episodes 4 and 5.
Very good point.
Or then you got the argument: is she a companion because she's only in one story?
Well, yeah, but we'll for the purposes of this argument, we'll let it stand. She is a companion, and that is very interesting. Yeah.
Very true there.
I love the way people are so pedantic. They have to insist. No, it's only a companion if what is it if you're in more than one story or
there's so many different.
Been in the TARDIS and travel.
But then Liz doesn't count if you're going for the travel in the TARDIS.
No. I always count as a companion. Good point, Joe.
On as well. He says,
"Hello,
on the stream." Yeah.
Well, it's great. It's great to be here. Earlier on today, with my hangover head. Because I had a conversation with Luke last night. So Luke
More
knows
wine.
No. And I got it from the Earl of Wessex's castle, actually, and it was very fine indeed, but very, very potent.
I mean, did you relieve him of some of his abundances then?
I did. I love the fact that it's another story. It's Pertwee the alcoholic doctor, isn't it? I love that the line said, "Do you want more wine?" No. Oh, well, perhaps just a little, doesn't he?
Yeah. While throwing his chicken on the floor.
Yeah.
I loved that bit. That was great. Just sort of
Yeah.
getting into the culture of it all, really.
Well, yeah. Well, he does throughout this season. He sits down and eats with quite a number of different sort of.
Yeah, because like the broth, doesn't he, in Planet of Spiders?
Yeah,
he's got the weird
death to the
stuff in
Daleks.
Death to the Daleks.
Whatever he's got
The
there.
mashed potato, yeah.
Yeah. And he's having wine with the Peladon woman. What's she called?
Yeah.
Queen
Thalera.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
from sort of like the horn, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well.
that's right. He gets the horn in that story.
The Agador horn.
Yeah.
The only one he doesn't share a drink with anyone must be Invasion of the Dino. Oh, well, he's having
He probably has
but that
tea.
doesn't really
Yes.
count.
Is that where the sugar?
Yeah, that's
sugar,
the one
yeah.
where it's just like he's constantly pouring in sugar. It's like the shot
That's
moves away from
fantastic.
him, goes
That is-
back, and he's still doing it.
That's so wonderfully such a bad example to the children, isn't it?
And then Capaldi did it in Series 8 as well, so it's all right.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, Death in Heaven. Yeah.
Did he? It's a nice call, but I've forgotten about that. Who else is there? Is it just Joe Bowers and the Steinitron?
Starry?
Yeah, it's dark.
Oh, Sarah. That's Sarah Graham.
Yeah.
Hello, Sarah.
Thank you for joining us. Hello, everybody. Lurking tonight as I'm listening while I bake. No.
Who's that,
What
Sarah?
are you baking? Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Sarah.
What's she? Ask her what she's baking. Yeah.
Has anybody mentioned the Lynx effect yet?
It's a perfect story for Christmas, isn't it?
What's the Lynx effect?
Well, because it's a deodorant as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I guess is that what? Sarah, you could be going on about something completely different there.
It is a deodorant, but of course, there's also another deodorant called Vlinks now since the last story. Although might not be spelt right. I didn't realize it was Nick. He had told me that he'd said, "Oh, I've signed loads of." I always think they're MDMAs, that are NDAs, non-disclosure. But he said, "But I am in the third special." I said, "All right, what is it?" He said, "It'll mean absolutely nothing to you. Doesn't matter." And I'd forgotten that, and then somebody. Was it one of you two that mentioned that it was him? Was it somebody else?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, that passed me by.
Yeah, I think it was you, Ben, because I was shocked that it was.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he was.
That's one of those ones where he's certainly disguised.
He's the voice of the monsters now, isn't he?
I think he's in a monster friends.
Yeah, well, I hope he is. I hope he continues to be. But yes. So where were we? Anything else from the chat? How many people are watching?
11, rather fittingly.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah.
Brian Smith said, would like to see Sarah entering the console room and her reaction in the Time Warrior, like we had with Harry in Ark in Space.
Or like we didn't have with Harry in the Ark in Space.
Yeah. Well, we had sort of like the react. Oh no. Robot. Sorry, robot.
Robot.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, she does it when she comes out, doesn't she? This is the sort of the shorthand.
Yeah. Well, it's more of a. It's still a police box, which is a bit of an odd thing to say.
Is that the line?
I believe it is.
Which is actually what Hartnell says in
it's
the
a
Cave of
callback.
Skulls. Yes, it is an odd thing to say. You think she'd be saying,
up
"Why?
that,
Why are we in a bloody forest rather than it's still a police box?" As though she knows about that. It's supposed to have a chameleon circus. Oh, its chameleon circuit must be broken. It's still a police box.
Yeah,
Yes, that
she
is a
says
strange one.
it's still a police box. I must find a telephone. It's still. What?
It's still a telephone box. I must find a policeman. That's what Hartnell probably would have said.
Yeah, that's what Dodo says.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's what she's looking for.
No, I love the fact that they couldn't be bothered to put the TARDIS set up very often in those days, and you wouldn't see it
But I wonder
from one season's end to the other. I just love the fact that it's not in season 12 at all, which must be just outrageous to Revive series fans. They probably just can't get their head around it. How could you not have the TARDIS at all? It's so.
Did she hide in the same chest as Zoe when she stowed away? Or did she hide in the pop-up cupboard that they got?
It was Zoe's in a chest.
IKEA beds.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. She's probably hidden in one of those. They didn't have IKEA. It was probably MFI. I think was the cheap furniture outlet in the 70s. MFI stood for More Furniture Ideas, which is probably the daftest acronym I've ever heard. So she's brilliant. Pertwee's, effortlessly enjoying every minute of it, isn't he? This is shot in May, isn't it? So he hasn't decided. Has he decided to leave?
I think
yet?
this is when he decided. I think when they were filming. I think this.
Yes, it was. That's right. She said.
I think this would probably be usually like before the next season. Yeah, is when you decide if you want to do the one after, isn't it? So that's
yes, they did, because that's where the whole Hal retaining Hal the Archer thing. Okay, well, if we're changing the Doctor, we might need a more active male companion.
Yeah,
if we're having
there would have been time to write him into.
Yeah. No, that's right. She says on that interview with Nick, she says pretty much as soon as she arrived, John said, "I'm leaving. Don't take it personally." When he wasn't saying, "What would you like to drink, Katie?" Which because she kept calling her Katie. Loads of people kept calling her Katie, which happens, doesn't it? Yeah, I'd say it was the strongest story. Certainly, the most concisely effective story of the season. There's every other story has got problems, I think. Bigger problems. Dinosaurs problems, unfortunately, is the bloody dinosaurs. Death to the Daleks, is flawed in. I love Death to the Daleks, but there's a lot that's. I love the fact that it broke Nick Briggs' heart when he interviews Barry and Terence and takes them through every single story, and Barry didn't remember the existence of Death to the Daleks. And Terence would go, it's the one with they're on a planet, and there's a mineral that they need to secure us. And Barry goes, "You're making all this up, Terence." He's, "I don't remember this at all." You see Nick's face. That's my favourite story.
I suppose Terence would have more reason to remember it as he's doing all the novels.
Exactly. Terence's recall is very, very good, isn't it? Because it was, he continued to make it a very strong strand of his writing career throughout the rest of his life. He never left Doctor Who, really.
No.
Never left Doctor Who. Probably more so than anybody else. Was an alumnus of Doctor Who throughout its history from the moment he joined in Invasion.
I mean, did he ever really have any other successes beyond that?
Oh yeah, he took over from Barry as the producer of the classic serial, the Sunday evening classic serial, which was a lot of them look terribly clunky now. That a lot of them, because they're all shot videotape. Exterior filming, but and of course there's sometimes there's Gulliver and Lilliput is almost entirely CSA.
Is the Tom Baker Hound of the Baskervilles?
That's shocking. Yeah, it was a terrible disappointment to me at the time, and it's just awful. And the sets at Baker Street, all the sets are tiny. Tom, by his own admission, isn't giving The Greatest Homes of All Time. It's not very good. Sometimes there were better ones. If Michael Bryant, when he did a terrific Treasure Island, which had was where Patrick Troughton played one of the pirates. Played oh God, somebody will know that. That was a good one. That was very good. And Michael Bryant did a good Tale of Two Cities for them. It very much depended on how inventive the director was, and they often weren't. I think, as you know, so they're often by numbers, a lot of them. But yeah, anyway, Terence took over from Barry producing that.
I never knew he went into producing after.
He didn't want to.
Hmm.
I can't remember what I can't remember why he did it. He really didn't want to do it, and then he ended up sort of quite enjoying it.
It's a funny thing with those two, isn't it? Because Barry obviously didn't really want to be a producer; he wanted to be a director, but got dragged into the hat.
Yeah, absolutely. But with the stipulation that he was allowed to direct one story a year. So it is interesting, isn't it? Things people don't want to do. But you said earlier on, people things don't want to do, they're often really, really good at.
Yeah.
Because has there ever been a better producer and a more influential producer of Doctor Who than Barry Letts?
The story between Barry and Terence about how they wanted to leave Doctor Who a bit earlier.
Yeah.
They were told, I think, by head of serials. Is it Sid Sutton at the time?
Sid Sutton designed Sean Sutton. Sid Sutton designed the 1980s.
And sadly passed away. Well,
very recently, or they found out.
September.
Sean Sutton. Yeah.
And then as they were leaving, Terence said, "This is the only prison where you get time on for good behaviour."
That's right. There's a lovely moment on the time where, well, it's lovely for me. I don't think all fans hearing it would think it was a lovely moment where they're praising Pertwee's performance. He's on the commentary. You listen to the commentary.
No.
Barry, Terence, and Elizabeth. And at one point they're praising Pertwee, and Terence says, "I always say that the first four, with no disrespect meant to the subsequent Doctors, but the first four were superb, perfect in their different ways." And Barry says, "The first four Doctors." Oh yes, quite so. And of course that's my opinion as well. But of course, with that in mind, Barry produced one of them and cast the other one. So he's responsible for 50% of, in many ways, of what I regard as pure Doctor Who. Yeah. Its finest years.
And did direct the second one as well. So the only one he never really touched was Hartnell.
Oh, directed Enemy of the World, a story I'm incredibly familiar with. Yeah.
Hello, Bruce.
Well, Bruce, what's the line?
What
are you doing here,
huh?
Yeah, I know that bit.
Just don't know how he gets out of it.
No, he has nothing to do with Hartnell, does he, at all? So there's no...
Other than like briefly Three Doctors.
Three Doctors, okay, there you go. But that's enough. That's enough. Yeah, there's connection throughout.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see if Barry had directed it, how it would have been different. But I don't think it just can't really be improved in directing. Yes,
I think the fight sequence in Part 3 might have been better.
The robot as well.
In the courtyard.
The fight in the court.
Yeah.
When Terry Walsh is running around throwing barrels everywhere.
Yeah.
It's funny how that's changed on the reprise. I mean, it happens a couple of times in season 11 when they. It
happened a lot in Paladin, actually.
Yeah.
A different reprise. Well, the biggest one is Planet of the Spiders, isn't it? Which is that completely bizarre one with it's where it's all over the place and there were bits in it that weren't in it last week or whatever. The first cliff, is that somebody yawning?
Sorry.
So you yawning, is it? It's all right. That first cliffhanger is one of the best, one of the most memorable. I remember that cliffhanger just like it was yesterday, the first time in black and white. And I don't remember the other. I never remember what the other cliffhangers are. I think.
He who strikes Iron Gron dies.
Yeah, that's one of those. Oh God, not the Doctor's about to be executed, which just became depressingly familiar in the Davison era. To the extent that he used to act it. Yeah, that's right. He actually has a line that's like, yeah, what we're all thinking. And three's the one with the early cliffhanger sting, isn't it? So he points the gun and the cliffhanger comes before he fires it. But that's good. I like Pertwee's face there. That's a good sort of pure Pertwee expression on his face.
Not the classic.
Too bad.
Say again?
You go,
Nick. I was just going to say, you've not got the classic Gurning Pertwee Payne acting in this.
No, although Terence calls him out for it when he's wearing that thing, when he's doing the Payne and the thing. I think it's fine there. Oh, he's doing a bit with Gurning there. No, he's not, Terence. Leave him alone.
It's not Mind of Evil.
I think he sells like the fact that he's getting a shock as well. Like his body does jolt
it's
with
great.
him.
I think that's really good electric shock acting.
I love like the hesitation as well after it's turned off.
Yeah, beautiful.
Before he goes and then swipes it right off.
For my money, after a couple of Gurning moments in the first couple of stories, he never ever puts a foot wrong. And it's so effortless. Just the sheer accomplishment of precisely placing every moment, every inflection. Nothing. At least I've said this before. There'd be a line, an actor. There's various choices somebody could make with a stress and a line or whatever, and several might be fine. But he, to my ears, always finds absolutely the perfect, most interesting inflection on any line. I'll hear and go, "Oh, that's really special. That what you did with that line, you did something." It's what they used to say about Laurence Olivier, that he would work very hard in the text to find the important thing was surprising the audience in a good way with saying a line in a way that they weren't expecting you to say it, but which is nonetheless, not
fitting.
wrong. Yeah, fitting exactly. Yeah, and Pertwee has that ability. I think they all have those four have.
Finding not the obvious route to go down.
Well, they're all one of the reasons why they're superb is because they are so unique, aren't they? They're all completely bizarrely. There's nobody else like them. There's no other performance like them, and enigmatic and entirely original.
Well, I think a line sums up that. A straight line, maybe the shortest distance between 2 points.
But it is by exactly very good. Nicely there, Ben.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. It's great. It's just pure Holmes. This script. There's so many great lines in it. It's just banger after banger. Oh, that's a great line. That's a really funny line. Or that's a really insightful line. Oh, there's things like the way he throws away really clever pieces of historical philosophical knowledge. So when he describes when the Doctor describes Lynx as nasty, brutish and short, that is the quotation from Thomas Hobbes, who was a political philosopher of the 17th century, who talked about the basic state of human nature is the bellum omnia contra omnes, is the war of all against all. That in our basic state of nature, all humanity wants is power over everybody else. So civilization has had to put checks and balances in a way to protect us from each other. So this is why we need government, why we need police, why we need, to prevent us from exploiting each other endlessly. And he said humanity in its basic state is, and there's a long description of what humanity is like, and the life of man in that state is nasty, brutish, and short. And it's great that Holmes has taken that and made it a sort of a description of Lynx being nasty, brutish, and short. There's just that there's little things there that are there, you know, for who can get the reference or whatever, but sort of just sort of thrown away.
Oh, that's brilliant.
He does that again and again. Say again.
I never knew that. That's brilliant.
It's when Hobbes is a fascinating writer about politics and about humanity and about is an endlessly sort of rewarding and never dates. Yeah, brilliant script. Just a joy. I think you know there's a strong case to be made that he is the best Doctor Who writer. That he, you know.
I think this one cements him as it because I think everything's perfectly placed.
Yeah.
How the
this
scenes
is probably
flow.
the one that cemented him getting the job of script editor.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I wonder. I've just got the Robert Holmes biography, and I was going to try and read the relevant chapters to this, and I haven't got around to it. So it'd be interesting to find out when he was offered. So I did know when he was offered. Hang on a minute, I can't remember now. But Terence said he was the obvious choice because he said was to my mind the best writer we had, you know. And it's just solid classic after solid classic. It's Spearhead, Terror of the Autons, Carnival Monsters, and this.
We ignore the first two. Yeah.
I love the Crotons, and Ian Levine tells us that the Space Pirates is a neglected classic, and if you'd only seen the way that they were shooting those scenes. Yeah. So, well, we might find out soon or not.
If you only had the private collector's copy, he's clinging on to.
That'd be £100 that one.
Yeah, maybe he knows because he's got it. Yeah. But was it you that was sending me his tweets about the stories?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bizarre, shocking. I swear he hated.
But you can never second guess a Doctor Who fan, any Doctor Who fan's opinion about anything. It's like, you know, you think you know a Doctor Who fan, and then suddenly they'll tell you they hate Genesis of the Daleks or whatever it is. You know? Hey?
And they prefer another Tom story.
Oh, they prefer
like Destiny more than Genesis,
for instance. We will do it one day. We'll get around to that. It's a Destiny of the Daleks review.
Yeah. Starry-Eyed Sarah has said and confirmed that it was a play on words with the deodorant.
Oh, nice.
And also is making mince pies. Very
well
big for the time of year.
What a good idea.
Not oatmeal.
What a splendid idea.
Oatmeal.
What the guards have.
Oh, right.
They have like the... And then the other stew.
Now, you've named what's the name of the woman, the Jenny Laird Award, as one of the worst performances in the history of the program. The guard after the Doctor and Sarah disguised as monks, he's got to be up there as
to be hoped to fly as a fleet of foot.
And then he pauses, and then it's the pause, and then he does this ludicrous laugh, doesn't he? It
feels like he's mumbling the words as well. You're like,
yeah. Well, he's like the kid at school who can't say the lines, isn't he?
Yeah. His temper is most sweet and pleasant.
It's delightfully crap. Yeah, talking to Robert Holmes.
You can't notice that there's a woman sneaking in right under his nose.
No.
It's like, heaven will reward you, brother.
No. Well, they didn't see a lot of women in those days. There's only one woman in the castle, isn't there? I think.
Yeah. Oh no, there's two because there's the one who Sarah goes, "Look at that great spider!" Ah!
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That's right. And there's Lady Eleanor.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. Go
on. On the behind the scenes as well, Barry lets us talk about how it makes a wonderful four-parter, but had it been 6, you'd have got more Lady Eleanor and they'd have done something more with her.
Right, yeah. Well, I think we can live without more. Yeah, it's
And
interesting.
2 episodes of them captured in Lady Eleanor's dungeon.
There's a nice a way in which the relationship between the Doctor and Lynx, the dialogue is reminiscent in some ways because Robert Holmes sort of was the first writer to write for the Master, so it kind of invented the Master. But there's a parallel, isn't there, between that? There's the strength of that dynamic between them and the sophistication.
They're
of
kind
the
of
writing.
weighing up each other, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, and just the sheer elegance and poise of, even though he's in this very, very, no doubt, uncomfortable and unwieldy costume, just the precision of his movements and everything. It's just such a great performance.
Yeah. It helps by the fact that there's only one of him. He's the only real. I mean, you got Irongrond as well as the villain, but he's like the alien threat.
Well, this is what I said.
That helps Robert to really channel all that through this one character.
Yeah, well, that's why we didn't talk about. I think I've said this before. We didn't talk about the Sontarans in those days. We talked about Lynx because he's a single villain. We're not thinking of in terms of
the Weetabix just called Lynx.
He was, yeah. I've got it. I've got it somewhere. Yeah, it's just called Lynx.
I mean, how many times is the word Sontaran mentioned in the story? Because you've got
he says at the beginning.
Yeah, for the Sontaran military corps, and then that's a typically Sontaran attitude.
Yeah, Pertwee says a couple of times.
Yeah, where was the transcript had that up? I can Control F the word Sontaran into the transcript.
That was,
we all knew him as Lynx, and I think even he was very, very well known by kids at the time. Or sometimes, as my cousin Ian called him, old shithead. But no, Lynx wasn't. It was like, oh yeah, Lynx. And
do you want to hazard a guess as to how many times the word Sontaran is mentioned?
Have you just checked it?
I've done it.
5.
Ooh, Ben, what's your guess? Let's see who gets closest.
I'll go 12.
Bang on.
Is it
12?
Okay.
Yeah. We got I am a Sontaran officer.
How many times is the name? How many times is the word Lynx mentioned?
Oh, I can't do because it's his name. If I control it, it'll be for every line he says.
Oh, that's a.
So I can't.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well.
Or actually, I could try Lynx space because there's a colon after.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, each type. It's also got some of the directions though. So yeah, no, that doesn't work.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Link his rod into the ground.
Tissue.
Oh, bless you.
Actually, talking of tissues, I'll just go and get one. It's going to blow my nose. 1 second. Talk amongst yourselves. I've learned how to turn the camera off now. So, I better not. I nearly left the studio. Hang on. There we are.
Lord, we've lost him.
I think, again, another nice Pertwee moment is the acknowledgement of Lynx in the end of part 1. That little look of that nod. I think that was another good little Pertwee moment going, oh, it's these guys we're up against.
Oh, when's that? What, end of part 1?
Yeah, so when you get him behind the cart and you see him looking at Lynx, he does a little nod just to go, okay.
I've not noticed that.
It's really a little moment, but it's so nice. And you get it in the reprise, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'll have to keep a lookout for that. Because this is one of those rare times where, or at least rare for the classic series, but the new series does it more often, where it's a returning villain from the Doctor's perspective. It's one he's familiar with. But for the audience, they are a new one. And
then we get the context, 2 Doctors.
Yeah, I mean, is there any examples of that before this? I mean, even 2 Doctors, he's already aware of, isn't they?
Oh, true. That is, well, and then we've got the Big Finish story, Sontaran.
Finally answers that.
Yeah. What other ones is there then?
Yeah, I don't really know if there is any.
I think...
I mean, he's been to Dog's Kiss before, but he's not met the Dominators before. Things like that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think... None are springing to mind at the very least.
I think they have like a basic knowledge, but it's never...
Yeah. I mean, Hartnell seems to have some sort of foreknowledge in the 10th Planet, but that's sort of left quite vague. he like knows about Mondas, knows the planet's coming, but yeah, he says, you know, we're gonna have visitors, referring to the Cybermen. So,
Yeah.
so that's perhaps one example, but it's sort of unclear whether he just knows history there, knows what's going on, or whether he's met Cybermen before. Yeah, because certainly that first conversation between him and the Cybermen makes it seem more like, you know, he's learning about them for the first time, learning about their emotions and, well, lack of them.
Yeah.
And such. Yeah. I mean, you could also make out the idea that perhaps the Sontarans are quite different, because when the Doctor said that's a typically Sontaran attitude, it's almost like he's pinning Lynx as a Sontaran. You know, he doesn't quite
stereotyping.
Well, no, sort of like that's when he realizes that like, from his attitude, you could see it as him first, you know, working out that Lynx is a Sontaran. You know, he's finally put all the pieces together from appearance and attitude. So that could be argued out. Obviously, two Doctors comes along and sort of throws it up in the air. But yeah, and it's sort of easier just to say, oh, the Doctor knew. You know, it's similar to what Big Finish does a lot with these things. It's like, you know, it comes across that way, but it's never explicitly stated. So
yeah,
we can have Leela meet the Sontarans.
Yeah.
You know, things like that's always the go-to one. Oh. Stario Terra says, I first watched the Time Warrior late 2007 when it was released on DVD. I think I got it for Christmas. By the end of school reunion, I was in love with Sarah Jane and keen to see more of her.
I think it was September, of 2007, the DVD.
Would that have been around the same time as Sarah Jane Adventures started up? I mean,
probably, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I mean, there was the New Year's special. Yeah,
that's a good point.
I believe it came on one of the DVDs as well. I think, Series 2, because that's when you had the Sontaran.
Yeah.
They also threw on the Time Warrior as a special feature.
They did the same for Pyramids, didn't they?
Yeah, Series 4. I think I saw like a tribute to Liz Sladen, as it was her favourite story. It is implied in the Celestial Toymaker he had met the Doctor before prior to An Unearthly Child with Susan, says Joe Bowers. But then at the same time, the Giggle sort of disputes that a bit, or at least if they met before, they didn't play a game that time. Yeah, certainly it became more common later on, like foes like Fenric, of course, and then going into the new series. There's loads of alien races and monsters that the Doctor's already familiar with, which allowed Big Finish to do a lot of classic Doctor's new monsters. Oh, there we go. He's found his tissue.
The horn of Rassilon's blown.
If you're wondering why I keep muting every once in a while,
is it because you need to
have a little cough? Yeah.
I think it's
probably better that people don't hear that. I'm sure no one's particularly dying to hear me cough.
Missed opportunity not to bring Susan back in the Giggle.
Apparently, he was considering bringing back Stephen.
Yeah, that would have been been a wild card thing.
I mean, would he have just been sort of in the same position as Mel? But yeah, obviously, because him and Dodo met the Toymaker. They first faced each other, so that would have been so it would have been a return that made sense from that context. But yeah, how would it worked into the story? Not a clue. I mean, would the Toymaker maybe have gone and played a game against Stephen? Is Stephen the one who waits?
Maybe.
Planet now, so he can always lead
his Lynx the one who waits, just left in his little pod, just in bits somewhere.
I mean, other villains have survived more implausible things, so you never know. Lynx maybe got thrown into the time vortex or something and survived getting shot with an arrow to the back of the probic vent. That's just a wonderful detail as well. The probic vent, everything about the Sontarans set up in this.
Yes.
It really does paint a wonderful
from the cloning.
Yeah. like all done so effortlessly throughout the
Mm.
story as well. It's not like there's a sudden halt of the plot to
Let me
give
give
the
you a
rundown on-
PowerPoint
yeah.
rundown of a Sontaran.
No, it's all naturally woven in there to paint this picture. It's not necessarily important to the plot, but just adds a lot more to the world of it. And you can completely see why the Sontarans were chosen to come back. And, recur again and again, really, like throughout both classic and then New Who as well. I mean, it's a brilliant design too. Like Christopher Eccleston is one who, despite not really being a Doctor Who fan growing up, that's a monster that's stuck in his head for so long.
I think it's the same
potato shape.
for my dad. He was scared of the Sontarans because it was that sort of Humpty Dumpty look, that sort of very classic horror thing, really, and the tongue as well, sort of almost sort of reptilian, is sort of checking out the atmosphere.
Yeah, it's a wonderful look, and I don't think ever really bettered than it is in the Time Warrior.
No,
I'm not sure whether they progressively get worse throughout classic.
Two Doctors is
Do you know about the
definitely not.
Sontarans?
Yeah.
The design.
I'm watching it last night and thinking, is it just because it's my era, that I think it's so good? Can I not get rid of that nostalgia filter? But of course, I can get rid of that nostalgia filter very easily for things that are crap, like the disappointments about Ark in Space, etc., in effects wise or whatever, certain design things. But it's just I mean, I love Steyer. I think Steyer's got. Obviously, it was a shame that the reason why they changed it was because poor old Kevin Lindsay's heart condition. It was too heavy, so they had to design something lighter. I think Steyer works. It's not quite as good, but it's second best for me.
Yeah.
Was it you, Luke, who said that he looks like sort of stone, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's
more troll, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Link's on the rocks.
Something
Link's looks
wonderfully
a bit more moist. I suppose.
It's horrible, isn't it? I mean, it's not an unapt description to call him old shithead because it's just it looks nothing. It looks more like a turd than a baked potato.
He's got like tufts of fur.
It's
well.
horrible.
Yeah.
And I think Barry said, or one of them says on the commentary that Kevin, as they progressed through the episodes, he requested more bits of because he liked the warts. I think that there's more as it goes on.
Oh, really?
More little hairy thing. And he was.
That's just his allergic reaction to being around Iron Gron. It's the stress of it. It's just bringing out in hives.
Being in this hole in space.
I mean, I suppose it's Middle Ages. They don't have as good hygiene standards.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, Link
no,
should
I don't think they haven't invented
sink.
soap yet. Yeah, but it's astonishingly good, and it's lovely. Sladen's tribute to Kevin Lindsay in that Nick Briggs interview. She said he was just we travelled down on the train together, and she does this impression of him in his Australian accent, saying, we were just gonna just have fun. It's all about having fun. She said, just have this wonderful, light-hearted and always fun to be around. And that was one of the reasons why Barry says he deliberately brought him back for Planet of the Spiders, because he got on, because Pertwee really liked him, and it was important to surround Pertwee, who was feeling very fragile and vulnerable as he was leaving. And as Sladen in that, she said he realized when he got to Planet of the Spiders that he didn't want to go, and he'd made a mistake. I've never heard anybody sort of be quite so on the nose about that. She said he'd gone into Sean Sutton and said, I want more money, and he said, no, you can't have it. And it was just a point of dignity that he couldn't then go, okay, well, I'm leaving. And that pride stopped him from compromising at that point, and he couldn't go back on it.
So I think
how long do you think he would have stuck around if he had? I think
I think he probably did want to go and didn't want to go, and it was a huge kind of ambivalence.
It's the security, I think
Yeah.
of it
I
as well.
think and of course, the death of Roger Delgado and the leaving of Joe Grant and the fact that Barry and Terence were going, it was timely. It probably was. It's probably.
No, I think Terence decided to go after John. I don't know
Did
about
he?
Barry.
Right.
Yeah, I think
Terence was kind of reluctant though, because that's why he made the rule about Robot, I think, wasn't it?
So he could get a job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give himself a job.
Yeah. For Terence, it was like he didn't want to seem like this spare part still sticking around after everyone else left.
You know. And obviously, we have Tom Baker, and so it was, and 5 years. The great thing about the Pertwee era is it doesn't put a foot wrong. There's an argument to be made that perhaps season 11 is a tad weaker than the other seasons. There's flaws in the stories in the way that there aren't flaws in stories in earlier seasons. There's never been a bigger special effects cock up, certainly not in that era, than the dinosaurs in the dinosaurs, which is such a shame because in every other way it's a magnificent story. And the death to the Daleks is probably the weakest Dalek story of the Pertwee era, even though I love it almost as much as Nick does in its way. Nick loves it so much because it's the first one that he recorded off the telly, so he had the soundtrack, and so you develop a very, very special relationship with something that you've got. In those days, there was no other way of revisiting stories, so you got them on tape. That's another reason why, Ark in Space, I had episodes 1 and 2 on reel-to-reels for years, and you can't tell how bad the special effects are on a recording. It all sounds like, because the value. One of the great strengths of Doctor Who is the sound design was always so fantastic, wasn't it? Dudley's almost always delivering the goods, and Dick Mills, both Brian Hodgson and Dick Mills are sort of geniuses with the sound effects. There's some of the strongest delivery of the plausibility of the world and the fear factor is to do with how it sounds at that time. Monster of Peladon is too long and all the sort of the mining political aspect of it is rather tedious. But you're both quite fond of Monster of Peladon, aren't you? In fact, do you prefer it to Curse?
I think maybe after the Blu-ray watch, maybe not.
I think Curse is aesthetically, it's just shot better. It's more atmospheric, and it's conciser, and it's sort of. And I think you were just disappointed the Ice Warriors were.
Yeah, that's my main. Yeah.
Whereas I love that twist on the usual convention.
Well, of course, it's just before my memories, Curse of Peladon originally, but it was the first novelization I got, so there's a very special place in my Doctor Who fandom because it's the first book I read, and I remember Monster of Peladon very well. Not very well, actually. There's bits of it I remember very vividly, but yeah, it's just a bit sort of. It's just not very stylishly directed, I think. And Planet of the Spiders. In concept, it's genius. The way that Barry co-opts his Buddhist enthusiasms and incorporates it into the Doctor, and the greed of the Doctor mirrored in the spider, and that he has to face his fear and face his flaws to regenerate and reincarnate. It's beautiful, very poetic, but it's too long. And again, it's sort of let down by the effects aren't brilliant, are they?
Yeah.
And the world,
the realization,
the realization of the is terrible, isn't it? Yeah, that sort of caravan park.
Yeah. come together.
No, and they've all got the ooh accents,
Yeah. And then you've got, I mean, just thinking about it, you've got Robot in that same production block, and that feels like a bit of a
well, we've discussed that at length, of course, haven't we? That if it had been a John Pertwee story, it would have been the weakest John Pertwee story.
And then you've got,
arguably,
with Time Warrior, that's of course a season 10 production block story. So maybe it's just something weird happened with the season.
The shine of season 10 is still on the first story of the next season. That's very interesting, isn't it? So I think what's wonderful about Pertwee is that there isn't, as with Tom Baker, that this extraordinary kind of schizophrenia of the three different phases. Completely. So you watch, a Hinchcliffe, Tom Baker story performance. You watch the character, and then you watch, even City of Death or whatever. It's like a different. It is almost like a different character, isn't it?
Like the Pertwee era has different phases as well, but John's constant throughout it.
It's the same. Yes, he doesn't. He never gets carried away in the way that because it was also the ethos never changed, because you got this the same production. Obviously, the first bit is Sherwin, but he's very sort of serious and intent, and Barry sort of then develops that, but sort of lightens it in some ways. But it's always that we are making this, and it's got to be realistic, and everybody plays it with total conviction. So there's no change of person, there's no change of ethos, and Pertwee's able to be the same Doctor throughout it. I feel
like he slightly softens. I think.
I feel like
he's harder in the first. He's harder in the first season. He's
I think of Fate as well. I think there's still a bit of carryover.
I think with Barry there as well, there's a more consistent moral center to the Doctor throughout it, whereas oftentimes throughout the Hartnell and Troughton era, the morals of the Doctor was sort of more subject to the morals of the writer. And while that is sort of carried through here, there was almost more of a vetting process, I suppose, from Barry and Terence in terms of which writers they got, partially helped by the fact that they didn't have to get so many scripts churned out in a year, with it being cut in half to 26 episodes now.
Yeah,
they didn't have to deal with that issue of, we're running out of time, we need to put something out. This one will have to do.
I think it's probably the era with the most conscientious and consistent production team. So you got this wonderful relationship between Barry and Terence, who like each other as much as they're enthusiastic about the job that they're doing, and in spite of their disparate worldviews, that is actually a strength. That Barry's very left wing and Terence is, let's call him, more old fashioned. But that creates a nice dialectic in the story. So you don't get, it doesn't let Barry get too preachy. You've got Terence there, sort of, if nothing else, making sure that the story and the narrative and the adventure is the most important factor. But of course, you've got writers like Malcolm Hulke, who's very left wing, Bob and Dave. They're sort of have strong sort of the same. They've got they're all socialists, and they've got those sort of values. What Robert Holmes's politics are is difficult to ascertain. It's like he's just cynical about everybody, I think. But when he's dealing with politics, it's very sort of detached and with a sort of knowing smile that they're all bastards, really. Here it is. This is. I did start reading. This is the Robert Holmes Life in Words, Richard. It was very good, very comprehensive. Anyway, it's what I've just been doing his earlier life, working through it methodically. I was trying to find the links Weetabix figure, but it's on the collage, so I've only got. Shown you these before. That's is Azaxia, but he's named Sal on there. So for years I thought there was a character called Sal. Sea Devil, of course. White Robot. Quark, and Sarah Jane in her robot Great Gatsby costume.
It's a funny one to go for Sarah.
What is the iconic Sarah costume? What's the one that comes to your mind?
It might be that one actually, because of the significance of the story, I suppose. Because I don't know, she's got a load of great costumes, hasn't she? And she's got a different costume in every story, has she?
For the most.
Oh no, yeah. She miraculously finds the combat gear in the filing cabinet to be in the right stuff for Revenge of the Cybermen.
I quite like the leather jacket look in Invasion of Dinosaurs.
Yeah, it's great. She looks really cool in that, doesn't she? I'm not sure. This is such a 70s look. It's the brown jacket, and is it a suit? It's just so wonderful. Life on Mars kind of colors. You know, everything's brown in the 70s. And she's wearing a bathing costume starring Death to the Daleks, isn't she? And then she's got brown on again, hasn't she?
Then she's almost got like a sailory look, hasn't she, in Planet of Spiders?
Oh, yes, she has.
The red and white.
Yeah.
Belongs by the seaside.
And then Planet of the Spiders. Is she wearing something similar? Has she got the same costume she got in Robot? Has she got that?
Yeah, like the blue outfit, I think.
I think she does towards the ends. Yeah. Like just for the regeneration.
She's wearing something white earlier on in Planet of the Spiders.
Yeah, the red and white one.
Oh yeah. And Robot, she's got the floral pattern blue dress and that one. You see, that Weetabix selection of characters came out in April of '75.
Yeah.
So we
just
just
floral dress.
So we were just coming to the end of Genesis, and we got Revenge of the Cybermen, and so the only Baker story. So you got a two Tom Baker figures and Sarah Jane, and the only other figure relevant to the Tom Baker stories is the giant robot. All the rest of them are from earlier eras. So I suppose as the only figure was the giant robot, it's probably not a surprise that they'd got the costume from Robot, which is probably the only reference they got at that point for the new series.
Yeah.
That was there were various things on the back. One of them was the TARDIS. Bear in mind that when we were delightedly making that three-dimensional, we hadn't seen the TARDIS since Death to the Daleks. So we hadn't seen the TARDIS. So it was really exciting to go, oh yeah, that's what it looked like. Well, of course it didn't. There's all sorts of shit in those just made up. But I love this. And also there was you on the back of another one there was the police box that you could put together, a cardboard three-dimensional police box, and the rest were sort of alien planet landscapes. But Ark in Space. Oh, she's still got the dress on, and then of course she's got the Vira costume, hasn't she?
Yeah. And then it's onto the yellow coat for
the rubber duck. The rubber duck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my son had a coat exactly like that when he was about 5. That she's got that in. Oh yeah, it's a sort of skirt, isn't it? There's a skirt and a jumper into Genesis of the Daleks. And then in what's she wearing in Terror of the Zygons?
The sort of turquoisey.
Yeah, turquoisey green, isn't it?
I suddenly can't picture it. Oh, she's got trousers on, hasn't she?
Yeah, like the big black boots.
I can see her climbing the ladder in the library.
I can hear as they're walking across the heather.
I was watching. Joe said I was watching Brideshead Revisited. In preparation for talking about Peter Davison, because it was very much influenced by the sort of the 1920s, the young romantic fair-haired characters wearing, flannels, beige costumes was very much sort of the zeitgeist at the time. But Geoffrey Bergen, who wrote the music for Seeds of Doom and Taylor Zygons, wrote the music for Brides That Revisited. And there are certain cues there's a hilarious sequence where Jeremy Irons and Jane Asher, who's his wife, Jane Asher's in bed ill, and it's a very sort of melancholy scene, and Jeremy Irons is sort of looking towards the cabin where she's ill. And there's a music cue which sounds exactly like the Seeds of Doom music cue, and the pod's about to open. With the same instruments. And I sort of fully expect Jeremy to go into the cabin and find that Jane Asher's turning into a plant. Because the music's identical.
You want me to die?
You want me to
had
die?
that with Time Warrior with a bit of Sea Devil.
That's right. You sent that's right. It was quite reminiscent, wasn't it? That bit, yeah. That you sent the clip, yeah.
I mean, there's another bit reminiscent of Sea Devils during the sword fight. I think between the Doctor and Iron Grom, where it's a move I think they do a couple of times throughout Classic Who, of the swords interlocking, like hands up.
And on the table.
And then you get pushed to the table, and it's like side to side. It was like,
right.
To be, right. Must be a regular Terry Walsh thing to do.
Yeah. Well, they do have their sort of their routines, don't they? That they'll repeat.
But when you're making television, it's made to only be going out once. I think you could. They're not going to have anyone going, I did that same thing 2 years ago.
It's astonishing how they could sort of invest so much in something that it must have been heartbreaking. But I suppose they never thought about it. So, well, it goes out and that's it, It was possibly might get one repeat. One of the stories would get a compilation repeat, and that was it. And that was, and then they were resigned to the fact that it was probably all going to be junked.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame that this one didn't get a repeat.
I think it's a shame this one didn't get junked. There are other stories I might cite for that fate, but certainly not this one. It didn't get repeated. No, never did. No. To my knowledge, not here anyway. They've probably said it thousands of times in Australia, obviously. The bastards.
Probably got it early on VHS as well.
But did they have a good cover for it? That's the question.
Probably. They probably had a fantastic cover for it. No, it's one of the greats. Well, it's very good. It's very good, isn't it? It ranks highly, I think.
I think it's a good jumping on point. I think as well.
It's a very it is. I think it is. Yeah.
Just there's something holding it back from being on the same Stone Cold classic level as something like Pyramids of Mars or some of the other Pertwees.
Interesting thinking about Robert Holmes' motifs. The Doctor disguising himself as a robot recurs in Pyramids of Mars as well, doesn't it? He's disguising as the robot in this, and then there's the mummy in Pyramids of Mars.
Yeah.
And
is there any other stories where he describes himself written by Rob Holmes?
Not that I recall.
No.
I mean, does the shower count as pretend to be one of the other Doctors?
I shall linger in the Great Hall, but I won't mingle.
I won't mingle. Yeah.
Mingle in the Great Hall.
It's a wonderful line. Wonderful. That's so pure. You see, he's good. That's the thing. There's a word, belletristic, which is that the value of writing purely for the use of the words, the vocabulary, the sound of it, and that's Robert Holmes. He just writes delicious dialogue, and here he's very good at writing dialogue that's sort of historically formal but sounds real and natural.
That with the double acts as well.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, so you've got this sort of cod, sort of medieval dialogue, but it's full of life and energy and humor, and all those lovely insults. He's brilliant at writing insults, isn't he?
It never feels like how people who probably don't really know much Shakespeare describe imagine Shakespeare to
Yeah.
be.
Well,
It's
it's just sort of it's just sort of Shakespearean, for a better word, enough, so that it sort of sounds plausibly of a previous era, but without it sounding sort of clunky and irritating. Not too it's not too gadzooks. That was the word he used. And
because like, the way language changes and develops over time as well. I mean, as Christopher H. Bidmead adored when it came to State of Decay.
Well, I like that. I love that. I love the.
I find it fascinating, but at the same time, if you were doing
Chris, that's bloody boring. No, it's not, Terence.
But if you were to have like something sounding accurate from this era, it'd be almost unrecognizable.
It's speaking Middle English. Have you ever read Chaucer? That it would be completely incomprehensible. Obviously, it's not.
And he's one of the educated ones from that time.
Yeah, well, exactly. They'd be talking gibberish. So obviously, you're not aiming for historical accuracy, but just a flavour of something that's sounds plausible. And he's just so good at it. He's so good at it, and he captures. Obviously, it's easier to recapture the idiom of the 1920s as he does in Carnival of Monsters because we got loads of writing from that time and the 19th century. Just the way he captures, Jago's dialogue in Lightfoot and is just absolutely perfect and rich and funny and believable. And again in Pyramids of Mars. This is of course the first story that mentions apparently it's called Gallifrey. And
I mean, if you had something like that happen today, there'd be a lot of fuss about it. Like, oh, what a stupid fucking name.
Well, in TV comic, it was called Jewel. He was from the planet Jewel. That really is shit.
Yeah. Yeah, because you have loads of people saying, "Oh, they should have kept it a mystery. You're ruining."
Well, I understand. I still sympathise. It was, when I became a member of DWAS in '77, and there was that copy of TARDIS, which was pulling Robots of Death apart, and then I got a back copy of the previous one about a couple months later, which was absolutely appalled by Deadly Assassin, and I love Deadly Assassin. I think it's on its own terms a masterpiece. But there is an argument to be made that it's a shame ever to answer the question, Doctor Who, to keep sort of adding more detail. There's one wonderful aspect, isn't it, to the first 10 years, I suppose, of the program, that it was largely shrouded in mystery. And it's Robert Holmes. Robert Holmes. This is the beginning of his satirical, dismissive attitude to the Time Lords, isn't it? So his Galactic Ticket Inspectors is the first of many dismissive, because they're still treated
bringing them down a peg.
They're still treated with reverence, aren't they? In the Three Doctors, they're sort of benign and godlike and powerful still, aren't they? But this is once Robert Holmes gets his hands on them, then it's this, and in Morbius, the pallid, was it the pacifist degenerates? Solon has loads of wonderful sort of dismissive insults about the Time Lords, and then of course you get Deadly Assassin, where they're just reduced to a bunch of rather moronic civil servants.
Well, I think it's sort of Robert Holmes going, hang on, weren't they? There was a reason the Doctor left, wasn't there? Like, didn't we have a whole...
Whether we should answer the question why.
Yeah.
Whether we should, but that's done. And unfortunately, we've had...
Well, I mean, it was answered why in the War Games, where he's saying, oh, because I was bored.
Yeah. The problem... Well, there's all the, there may be many, many reasons. There are many. And we keep on finding out more reasons that we didn't necessarily want to hear, or necessarily good ideas. But anyway, of the origins of the Doctor. But... it doesn't matter. It's, as you said, Luke, was at the beginning of one of the things. It's all fiction. It's all made up.
Yeah, it's just funny how quickly we accept things into it. Like with Gallifrey, how that just feels, so ingrained in.
It feels
Doctor
normal
Who
for
now.
us, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even for me, For me at the time, because the Doctor Who monster book comes out just before Christmas '75, and that's Terrance Dicks writes that from cover to cover, and it's all this stuff is in it, and that everything that was and the Radio Times special with the Bibles, and so you believed that every piece of information that had always been in the series, So for me, it was a surprise to me some years later to discover that Gallifrey is first mentioned in the Time Warrior.
It just feels like such a perfect name for the Doctor's home planet as well.
Well, we just can't.
Comes from us,
none of us can remember a time. Even I can't remember a time before Gallifrey.
I mean, you've got in the original script, it was Golfrey or Galfrey.
I mean, I think Tom Baker pronounces it quite colourful.
Gallifrey, he pronounces it.
Yeah.
I think John almost pronounces it Gallifrey as well, actually here. But it's.
I mean, you could possibly have while Bob Holmes is in the middle of writing this, David Tennant and Catherine Tate popping up in the TARDIS, saying, "Oh, you're the one who came up with the name Gallifrey." What
Please,
was that
God.
magnificent word? Gallifrey?
Don't
Golfrey.
go there. Don't go there. Oh, you did. Anyway, it's funny watching Earthshock and watching this the other day, so close to each other, and then watching The Giggle. Anyway, I won't say any more. So, a contrast. So, where does it figure in terms of okay, Ben, what's your favourite? What's the best Pertwee story?
Sea Devils.
Can't argue with that. Can't argue with that. What's yours, Luke?
Possibly Mind of Evil.
Oh yeah, it is for you, isn't it?
But there's
I
so many
admire it, but I
ones.
don't love it. I admire it, but I don't love it. I don't. Yeah,
something about it that feels so right to me. But then, you've
yeah,
got ones that you watch. Like I stick on Planet of the Daleks so many times. Yeah, and
it's
I adore
really,
that, but
I
I
think
don't
that's
know
the
whether
best
I'd put
Dalek
it in.
story for me.
Yeah,
it's what?
I think that's my favourite Dalek story. I think
It's a great comfort story, isn't it? It's
best Dalek voices as well. I think.
Well, I agree absolutely, and that's because, and I'm so pleased that was my first encounter with the Daleks was Planet of the Daleks. And
Frontier in Space.
Okay, well, yeah, that 12
John Pertwee voicing them as well.
That 12-parter. They were just so sort of impressive. Yeah, those voices are so abrasive and alarming, aren't they? And as Nick said, they're really they've got their mouths right up against the ring modulator, which is what he tried to emulate for the Day of the Daleks special edition.
Yeah.
To emulate the Planet of the Daleks voices.
The only
certainly
version.
it's emulated many
Well,
times.
I think so. But as people are pining recently, oh, it ruined it. No, it didn't. It's a huge improvement. Is that what's on the iPlayer? Is it the?
It's the special edition.
Oh, great!
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really pleased about that. Others won't be,
Yes, they've been quite vocal about that.
It's a broad church, isn't it?
Born and bred, eh?
Yeah. Doctor Who fans born and bred. So, Sea Devils. So, okay, this is what's I want your top 5 at least Pertwee stories, Ben. I think it's so hard because I said before, there isn't. It doesn't put a foot wrong. There's I'm less likely to put Colony in Space on. Probably, I'm less likely to put Monster.
Time Monster.
That's harder work, but it's got a lot to recommend. It's the ambition of it is,
like if you were to list them all like first place to 24th place, you'd be going into after 10, you'd be thinking, no, that's really good. That should be higher. But then you look at what's higher and you think, they're all great. It's very hard to really rank them like that. Like even going down to 20th place, you'd have a banger.
Yeah, you're right.
None of them I wouldn't want to stick on and
No, I mean, so obviously, Sea Devils, as it's my first Doctor Who memory, is very special. But then the miraculous revelation in 1985, when that pirate copy arrived on the doorstep, which enabled me to escape watching the marriage of Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. It was that morning that this tape arrived from Graham Wood of the military, and it was like, oh my God, I've got the bloody Sea Devils. And it was I was actually shaking as I put it into the machine, and I was so nervous because I hadn't seen a scene of it since it was on, since 1974, and it was astonishing. It was exactly as I'd remembered it, almost shot for shot, and it was quite strongly because it had been repeated twice. I suppose that's why it was so. But I kept thinking there's bound to be a scene that they didn't manage to get on the location, and they've done it in a CSO tank with a dodgy dinghy. There's being familiar by that point with scenes like that in The Green Death, But it's so throughout there's that consistency of production value, isn't there, in the Sea Devils? It's like a film, thanks to their special relationship with the Royal Navy and everything. Being impressed by it. It's whether it's the best story of the era is another matter.
It doesn't encapsulate the era, but yeah.
Well, I think no, but I know it because I know it's funny, isn't it? It's an anomaly because it hasn't got the Brigadier and all that in it and Unit, but it's sort of because it's still doing all the things that the Pertwee era did, but with a slightly different personnel. It just almost makes it epitomize it more for some reason. I don't know. There's a paradox, an interesting paradox there. Obviously, Inferno's spectacularly strong, but Spearhead from Space, you can't get a stronger sort of introduction to a Doctor story.
I mean, a brilliant blueprint for the whole era, really. That sets the tone.
Yeah.
I mean, funny enough, going back to Gallifrey for a second, though, Tigarello over on Twitter, I've just loaded that up and just suddenly seen this, has done a supercut of all the mentions of the name, and it's amazing.
Of what name?
Just the name Gallifrey.
All right.
Since it was mentioned in Doctor Who. And it's amazing how quickly it goes from. So you got it being mentioned in Time Warrior, and then after that, it's not brought up until I believe there's like one other story between that and Hand of Fear. Yeah,
Pyramids.
Pyramids. That's that clip. Yeah, it's while
Is that the next time it's mentioned?
Yeah.
So it's Bob Holmes has invented it, and then nobody else has noticed, and then he sort of plugs away at it.
Yeah, and then after that, it's not until Hand of
Fear
where you get the is that an island?
No,
joke?
is that in Ireland?
I
think he says it's because it sounds like an Irish name. I think I used to think is that an island, but is that in Ireland? Probably. That's it. Tom's at his most sort of bad-tempered, wonderfully sort of abrasive in that, isn't he? So it's I love Tom when he's really really narky.
That's like it's one of those wonderful Doctor Who fan jokes as well about Gallifrey being an island. Like it's not a particularly funny joke.
You get it in Human Nature, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost more a reference than a joke.
And then Chibnall took it to the next level.
Yeah, we can't help but be amused by, and yet it's not. It's not really much of a joke.
No, but it's sort of who is Bob? Is that Bob Baker and Dave Martin wrote? I didn't know. I wonder if that's theirs or that's Robert Holmes's joke. I don't know.
But yeah, it's just wild to think that it didn't necessarily stick after Time Warrior.
No, exactly no. But I suppose once it had been named, that was it.
Yeah.
So you were talking about Sontaran. So Lynx is the best for me. Steyer's the second best, and pretty much forget the rest.
General Stahl, I like. Christopher Ryan does a really good job.
Well, his performance is good, but I just it's interesting.
I don't like the blue color scheme. I don't like the design.
No,
I don't mind the blue color scheme, but it's more the latex nature. There's something about 21st century latex makeup
the same with the Zygons. It's sort of it's sort of spongy, isn't it? There's a sort of there's something that's
rubbery. It looks
rubbery. Well, look at that. There's something wonderfully sort of organically sort of I suppose it's more
fleshy.
Fleshy, yeah.
I suppose it's also not helped by the quality of the cameras going up, so it picks up the fakeness that much more.
Maybe the HDness or whatever it is. Yeah.
But I think
was
by
it
the time
HD?
you do get to the War of the Sontarans, or actually no, Halloween.
Is this? Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I mean, it almost sticks in my craw to praise that, but they are probably.
They're wonderful creations in that.
The best design since Lynx, actually. Yeah.
They do go back to that texture.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. They do.
Wonderful about that. I mean, for me, my least favorite look is probably the Invasion of Time ones, with the excessive amount of eyeshadow.
The glam rocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? I mean, I suppose I think my least favorite are the two Doctors ones because they just everything about them is because Clinton Green's too tall, and they're not featured properly. This is the great thing about the focus of the Time Warrior is Lynx, isn't it? He's the absolute epicenter of the bloody thing. Obviously, a lesser actor than Kevin Lindsay might be in danger of being overshadowed by David Dacre's extraordinary barnstorming Iron Grom, which is brilliant. But Lynx is absolutely the fascinating focal point of the story.
Yeah.
Like Davros, he's like Davros. It's up there with Michael Wisher, isn't it? It's absolutely central and utterly compelling. In
I mean, even in the image we've got on screen at the moment, just the look in his eyes, completely sells you.
Oh yeah, that image there were two poster books released in it was one in 1975. Hang on, I'll show you it.
Okay.
He almost sort of transcends Sontarans, doesn't he, Lynx?
Yeah, he does. I mean, he even did get a reference in Flux as well. I mean, goodness knows how the Sontarans were aware that he'd annexed the planet, given that he was cut off from.
Probably did like a little field report.
Yeah,
there was no merchandise. Obviously, as you know, very little. There was the Target books. We had the 73 Radio Time special, and the Monster book at the end of 75. And this was what I got from the Doctor Who exhibition in summer 1975. Have you ever seen this?
No.
25p, and so it's extraordinary. So it looks like it's sort of like a book. So there are little posters in it. So that's not Styre, is it? That's the Marshal, because he's got his pair of whatever they are. There's David Collins without his beard there in that picture of Vorus. You can see, and there's various things. There's a message from Doctor Who. A little greetings and salutations. It gives me pleasure to write a few words to all the Doctor Who fans. If you enjoy watching the show half as much as I enjoy making it, then we'll be seeing a great deal of each other for many years to come. If I live to be 100, and he might, I don't think I'll ever find another role as enjoyable as the Doctor, spelt DR, full stop. This part is such fun that going to work in the morning is more like going out to play. And I look forward to putting maximum effort into the job. A job that means I will be saving a galaxy, the universe, or a race of people every Saturday. Warmest regards, Tom Baker. And then the bottom here, there's a tiny little photograph from the Celestial Toymaker. And it says, "We thought you would enjoy a flashback way back to 1966. This scene depicts the Celestial Toymaker, a fantasy episode with very menacing undertones. Doctor Who and his companions find themselves in the power of the celestial toymaker, whose make-believe world of toys and dolls includes, I can't read this, keeping human beings in his playthings forever. The TARDIS has vanished, and the only way to regain it is for the Doctor to play and win a series of games against the Toymaker. There you go. A flashback. So that was as much of a fucking flashback you're getting as you have one bloody black and white photograph.
Now they colorize it and turn it into footage.
And I got a couple of these so I could cut it up because there's the posters, the big posters inside. So there's a little picture of the Sea Devils. You see, that was just so exciting just to have that bloody black and white photo of the Sea Devils. That was the only access. And you just look at it over and over again, just pour over one photograph because it was all you'd got.
It's amazing how much the internet revolutionizes like fandom in general. I
Yeah,
mean, we've had
yeah,
the
I mean,
discussion before.
yeah. It's just
it never
holding
ceases to
on to
amaze.
something tiny. All these little photos. There's Alpha Centauri, Silurian, a Yeti, but of course inside are these posters.
I suppose me and Ben had that a bit when we were younger with the
That's
I
different.
think we had to do the monster book.
That's
a
a
photo of Tom.
fantastic photo of Tom, and on the other side is the
Yeah, so like
that one.
it's at a
And,
time where
And
we were
of course,
young enough that we weren't having unlimited access to the internet.
no, I didn't realize at the time, of course, as I do now, that all of those photos in the we can't see it. All
they
those,
were
There you go.
they're all from Genesis the Daleks. I
Ah.
didn't realize that part the one in the middle. But no, so this is what I bought several of these at because I knew I wanted to have all the pictures on my wall. So and that was one of these. I've got several here. Was on the wall, central position for decades, of course, and
In prime position to be
I
torn
used-
down
I
after
actually used to-
Warriors of the.
well, it wasn't never torn down; it was carefully taken down. Don't worry, I wasn't
A
that sort of
Philistine.
iconoclastic at that moment of destroying the imagery. But I filled it wrong. Fucking hell. And I sort of used to sort of look at it. It was almost like a shrine. You know, I was just barely short of kneeling before it because it was by this point, of course, I totally
Did you greet the household gods?
I totally accepted Tom, of course, by the summer of 1975. But so the point being, there was that, and then a year later, which I now haven't got. God knows what happened to it. It's very frustrating. There's another similar to that, but the posters inside it were that photo of Tom in Solon's basement, where he's sort of standing, presumably talking to the brain of Morbius. Does he ever? No, he never talks to the brain of Morbius. Does he? No, he
It's only
doesn't.
when he becomes.
In my
Chop-Suey.
imagination, because I, of course, hadn't seen the story. Recently seen the story, but I didn't remember it vividly. So in my imagination, he was talking to Morbius, but he never talks to the brain of Morbius. It's Tom standing in that setting, wonderful photo, and the other photo was that one, and that was what a great massive poster of Lynx, and it's such a shame I haven't got that now. It's great photo of one of the great Doctor Who creations. And what a privilege it's been to discuss it on its 50th anniversary. Is anybody still watching? Has everyone gone now?
Oh no, we still have 5 viewers. We've got the timescales has arrived saying.
Oh, hello,
"Greetings from
timescales."
San Francisco.
Hello, mate.
Joe Bowers has sadly left us. It's been an enjoyable stream, but I'm calling it a night. Thanks for the stream,
Well,
and see you in the next one.
bless him.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah.
Was what's his name? The stylish one there. Was he gone?
Stylish one, are you there?
Yeah, let us know.
The timescales has said I'm still watching. Thanks.
Fab.
Oh,
I mean, I'd be a bit worried if you weren't timescales because you only joined us about 5 minutes before that. So if we scared you off that quick, Bored you already.
That boring.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, for all you lurkers out there,
Thank
you
you.
for
It's
sticking with us. Please do leave a like if you're
yeah,
still here.
it's one that there's never any. It's just so sort of easy to watch, isn't it? It's just it rattles along.
It's comfort who I think.
Yeah, it's great. It's just great. It's just great. And you've got a nice, lovely, brilliant bit of Courtney. He's another one who never puts a foot wrong, isn't he? He's just so sort of utterly the brigadier, isn't he? He just has a few lines at the beginning, and it's just always a wonderful enhancement to any story he's even got the slightest bit to do in.
He's almost got sort of Joe Grant lines in a way about the TARDIS.
Oh, go on.
Ooh,
Like sort of, you never know where you're going and stuff like that. It feels quite Joe.
Look what happens last. Look what happened last.
It feels quite
right.
Joe.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it certainly paints the picture that it hasn't been that long since the Green Death, and the Doctor has been hanging around on Earth for that time.
It's interesting, isn't it? But the sort of the wonderful way in which that sort of stiff upper lip English way the writing was. We've moved on, and we don't even mention Joe. there's no sort of sentimental. I don't know who was saying to the other night about. Hello, mate.
The Briggs not even going on about getting him a new assistant this time.
No, but the wonderful way that this, the revived series, as my friend Jonathan O'Brien, who had the Radio Time special in the playground, and we're still great friends. And it was not long after the revived series started. He said, "Have you seen the new Doctor Who?" He said, "They're bursting into tears every 5 minutes." And of course, it must be quite a culture shock to revived series fans to go back and see how it's all. There's not a grain of sentiment, is there, in the old series? Even the farewell to Joe is probably the closest that you get, but he doesn't even hug her.
Nah.
He gives her the thing, and then he leaves, and he has his moment of melancholy and Bessie, and there's even the farewell to Sarah. Is they keep back, don't they? And there's just that tiny moment when she says, "Don't forget me," and just the way he goes, "Oh, don't you forget me," and there's that, and so we're withheld their emoting, which made, for my money, made it far more emotionally powerful for the audience. I cried myself to sleep.
Or like the early 60s is probably where it was at the most sentimental of the classic series. Like Susan's goodbye.
Yes, you're right. Actually,
is very much made to bring, and Ian and Barbara as well.
Yeah, Susan's goodbye, and there's that quite sort of sentimental music, isn't there? There's an incidental music there, whereas with Joe's farewell, there's no incidental music. There's just the diegetic music of the party.
Yeah.
And then it's just Pertwee goes out and there's the sounds of the
ambience.
It's perfect, isn't it? That he comes away from the party and there's just the distant sound of a party that he doesn't want to be at or can't be at.
I suppose it does sort of come down to the fact that by this point the show is the Doctor's show, whereas with Susan, Ian, and Barbara, they were a quarter of the show in a way.
Yeah, but I think you're right. There's a definite. I think by the 70s, there's a very, very sort of unsentimental approach to the program, and again with Sarah's farewell, no incidental music. There's just her whistling. Daddy wouldn't buy be about. Or there isn't her. Do you know who's whistling? There
is it the director?
It's Lenny Mania because she can whistle. Which is so moving in its way, and I love the freeze frame there, and everything. But I suppose that the freeze frame could be thought as being slightly sentimental. And then there's botched farewells like Leela. So it's just like which is all to do with Graham Williams' lack of organisation because he kept thinking she was going to change her mind. Same with Mary Tapp. Oh yeah, no, she says she's leaving. I'm sure she'll change her mind. Oh. Shit.
She's actually gone.
She's gone. Yeah. And the Romana. I'm leaving. Oh, okay then. Oh, have the dog as well. Bye.
Yeah.
Very noble
Well,
of
it's your
you.
opportunity to get shot of it.
Well, it was. I can imagine Chris Bidney saying, "How are we going to write out Lala and the dog? I don't care. Just fucking get rid of them. Write a couple of lines. Be fine."
I mean, yeah, next one after that'd be Adric.
Adric, yeah,
That
but
finish.
people criticise that. People criticise that, that it's unsent. The fact you wouldn't want us to mourn. But I love that. I love that sort of we've had
I mean, it is rather
they have the
sentimental
emotion and the credits, which but that really did get me at the time. But I'm one of Adric's few fans. One day we'll discuss that period.
I mean, Nissa's then actually again.
Doesn't she
we're
give
in
like a
80s
little
now.
kiss to Davison? Yeah.
Nissa does.
Jeez,
Yeah.
Like it's not overly sentimental. It's not stretched out. It is quite a quick tagged on scene of
No,
my
there are
contract's
tears.
up. I'm off.
There are
The letters
tears.
need me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are tears. Is that the first time there's been tears as a farewell for a very long time?
Yes. And
There must be no tears.
I mean, I think Jo comes very close to it, doesn't she?
She looks quite
She's sort of welling up
emotional.
A bit,
She is well. Yeah.
But it's like the doctor's very much reassuring and saying, no, don't cry. The line's not from there, but yeah.
That's from another story, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
But there is that message behind his words, nevertheless.
Yeah. No, it's just great. Watching, this. You can just they repay every revisit, don't they? And you go, oh God, I'd forgotten that line. I'd forgotten that bit. I'd forgotten that moment. And it might be early Alzheimer's that I'm forgetting things that I may have remembered more vividly a couple of years ago. But no,
good luck to me and Ben then, because I think your memory's better than ours with many of these.
Well, I've known these stories a lot longer than you have, obviously, so, and in many different forms.
I mean, this one's 50 years old now, and you were there for when it went out.
Yeah, which is strange because I'm nowhere near 50. I don't quite can't work that.
25, aren't you?
You do your Doctor Who watching out of order.
No more than 33, certainly. But there's a strange anomaly there. It's timey-wimey stuff, isn't it? I won't pry. No, it's Robert Holmes' scripts are always just sort of packed full of juicy wonderfulness. But no, the whole era is just it never disappoints, and it's so there's little sort of tonal variations, but it just all feels of a piece, doesn't it?
Yeah. It very much feels like everyone pulling in the same direction.
Yeah. Well, that's because you've got this very, very probably the most conscientious captain at the helm, haven't you? Barry, just dripping with integrity, isn't he? You can't imagine. Difficult to imagine Barry ever doing anything improper or indecent or anything sort of. I can't imagine Barry ever having. Or if he did, he would deeply regret it and make atonement and amends for it, and put it behind him in that way. It's just the planning. You can see the planning it's going to. As with Hinchcliffe carries on with this, everything's planned out. He said, "Can we do this? At the earliest possible opportunity." Going to the design department, we want to do this. Can you make it?
I mean, I was mentioning earlier as well. I mean, way earlier about how with Barry and Terence, there's very much a plan for a season as a whole. Like it feels like every story strategically placed. Like we're saying, these openers very much feel like openers. They feel like welcome back to Doctor Who after a while. In a way,
that's right. And he always said we wanted to open with something new each time, didn't we? So for want of a better word, a gimmick or whatever. So
and I don't think that's ever been the case as strongly anywhere else in the classic series.
No, as you say, even a producer as strong as Hinchcliffe, hasn't got that solidity of an opening. Okay, Terror of the Zygon is a terrific story, but Mask of Mandragora isn't.
Yeah. I mean, Terror of the Zygons also has the odd thing of, it sort of.
But it wasn't meant
was
to be the
originally
first story.
planned, as
No,
season
it would
12,
have been. I suppose
12
Planet of Evil would have been the first story, which, of course, I love it. It was Liz Sladen's favorite story, but it isn't the strongest story of the era.
No. I mean, I wonder if they would have mixed up the schedule a bit there. Or,
Oh, they would have changed the order if Terror of the Zygons hadn't been the first.
I mean, I imagine if Terror of the Zygons
Pyramids of Mars was shot before Planet of Evil. Interesting.
I mean, also, if Terror of the Zygons had been kept on season 12, then there would have been an extra space in season 13 for another 4-parter.
Say that again. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Because presumably in this alternative timeline, we're now imagining where Terror of the Zygons was the 6-part finale of season 12.
Yeah.
Season 13 started going out in January and had 26 episodes still, so they'd have to have pulled it on a 4-parter from somewhere, and that might have been a more one planned as an opener than leading into.
Who knows?
Planet of Evil. Yeah.
Who knows? Thinking about season openers in earlier as well, because and An Earthly Child, Planet of Giants isn't a great season opener, is it?
I mean, apparently
I love the Hartnell era, thank God, but I find
don't mention the War Machines.
Well, don't mention the War Machines. Absolutely, about all War of God. But I can't be bothered with Planet of Giants.
I'm glad it was
apparently
cut
there
down.
was discussion of
thank God it was cut down.
There was discussion of having
Dark Invasion of Earth as the opener. Well, that would be great.
But they couldn't have done it because of Susan leaving.
Planet of Giants is still 3 episodes too long. And then I love Galaxy 4. I suppose in those days, though, because you'd only been off air for about a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
so it wasn't the sense of occasion, was there? Because it was on pretty much all the year round. And then the Smugglers.
I mean, the Invasion in a way.
The Smugglers is the first story of the next season.
Yeah.
A second.
The Invasion in a way must have felt like the start of a new season because they had a 3-week gap between Mind Robber and.
Well, that was. I've told you this before because they used to have a gap over Christmas in the 70s. It gave the impression that Brain and Morbius was a new season. Gave the impression that Face of Evil,
new season of Doctor Who.
Well, they'd say, and yes, the new season on BBC One. Yeah, which they meant January, but that was part of the new season. So in my mind, so when, of course, when you gradually became a tedious nerd and knew everything, is the surprise going, oh right, oh, and of course, and the confusion about seasons. So the Radio Times special, you've got, it says 63 to 64, which is An Earthly Child to World's End. That's actually the first production block.
Yeah.
So it's sort of correct in a way there. And then you begin with The Powerful Enemy to The Nightmare Begins. 65. That's just 65. But because then, but when you get to Pertwee, so it just says 70 to 71. So it gives the impression that is one season from Spearhead from Space to the Demons. So I didn't know for quite some years, where one season ended and another one started, and then you get The Day of the Daleks to the Green Death. Interesting, yes. So this is the first story of the 70s that begins in autumn or begins. Yeah, is this autumn? Are we in winter yet? But it begins before Christmas. All the Pertwee series before this had started in January. So
they were sort of gradually creeping back, weren't they? You go from the 3rd to the 2nd to the 1st, then the 28th, and now you bounce back to the 15th.
Yeah.
It's like they were getting ready for that eventual shift to the
eventual
August/September
which just
start.
made so much sense to us that Doctor Who was on when it was dark, and when it's it was it used to be bizarre with the last story of the season,
So it carries you through the darker months.
Well, it's just wonderful for the Gothicism, the fear factor of Doctor Who. That the nights are drawing in. Oh, Doctor Who's starting again, and it was so very much about the new Doctor Who season, and it was the child's excited anticipation of Christmas, all sort of associated with the
Probably
wonder
worked like back
of
to school as well.
Say again.
Probably worked quite well for back to school.
Oh yeah, well, I remember the first episode of Terror of the Zygons was the weekend before I was starting at not big school, junior school. So I'd moved from infant school. I don't know what they call them these days. But going from one. So there was that excitement, and I learnt to tie my shoelaces that about half an hour before episode 1 of Terror of the Zygons. That was a great rite of passage. And it being sunny outside. So at the beginning of the season, it was still sunny. So episode 1 of Terror of the Zygons, it was sunny outside, and then it's got sunny outside by episode 6 of Seeds of Doom. But most of it's in the dark. And you got it at Halloween time. It's great. Those are the days. When's the next season? Is that spring? We discussed that.
I think it's May. I think they've said.
It's when?
May, I think.
You see, I suppose you lot are all used to it being sunny outside. It just feels wrong for it to be.
It felt wrong when it got to Capaldi and it was sort of the autumn slot.
Oh, so it was wrong when it was dark.
Yeah, for us because we were so used to sort of it worked for the Capaldi season. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Because it was 23rd of August. Deep Breath was. So
right.
It'll be the Hinchcliffe slot really.
Yeah. And that felt odd to you.
Yeah.
You got used to it in the summer. Funny, isn't it?
It's sort of the Easter time, yeah.
I mean, it was odd with Planet of the Deads because that was going on like the time that this new season would usually start, but it's just this one-off special.
Right. You see, that's why Waters of Mars worked so well for me on every log. I think it's a terrific story, but it was also November, wasn't it? So
yeah.
This is where Doctor's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, so they added a fair bit.
It was November, wasn't it? Was it November?
Yeah.
Late November as well, I think.
Yeah. I know it just felt so right. I remember going around to Elstobbs to watch that and going, there's Doctor Who's back on track.
I mean, how about Torchwood Children of Earth? Because
I've never seen that. Is that worth seeing? Would you recommend that?
I think it's the best tool.
Yeah,
I've never
that can be watched on its own as well without
ventured. Nick's in that, isn't he?
Somewhere.
Yeah, as a cabinet minister, isn't he?
Is he? How many is that? 2 parts?
5.
5
I
days.
See. Okay, and how long is each part?
An hour.
What's Class like?
Oh, I've only watched the first episode.
Mr. TARDIS loves Class.
It's a rough ride.
Is it? I thought I might venture into it and have a look at it, but no, it's terrible, is it? Okay. When was that going?
I mean, you might not find it terrible.
Well, I don't know. You can never second guess it. Opinion. I've said it before, and I'll say it again.
I think it was October because I think it was the 10-year anniversary of Torchwood. They launched Class.
Yeah. As you know, I'm one of the world's few fans of Twin Dilemma. Surprising though that may be.
I mean, I'm sure Time Warrior has its detractors.
There's a story for everybody, and there's a story that you'd think was consensus about that you'll find
someone will come along
absolutely fucking hates. Oh no, the time was shit. Yeah, which is great. This is what it's all about. If we all have the same opinions about it, it would be a very boring world. And Doctor Who fans like nothing more than complaining and disagreeing with people. So they get dopamine hits from it,
It's serotonin.
Exactly, it's a drug. Well, have we? Is there anything left to say about the time? Are there any box unticked? Is any hole uncovered?
I think we've done a pretty comprehensive job.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's some. We'll look back tomorrow and think, bugger, I should.
Well, there's always something I'll think. Oh shit. Let's not an honourable mention. That sounds sort of detrimental, doesn't it? But Dudley Simpson, great work here, and it's interesting. This is the phases of Dudley Simpson's incidental music. So season 8, he's just using the synthesizers, and then he pleads with Barry to let him use instruments because it's too much like hard work. Him and Brian Hodgson not getting any sleep trying to do it all with synthesizers, and so Day of the Daleks, you get the sort of the first blend of instrumentation. I think he's not allowed from this season on. He's for some reason there's some sort of caveat, or whatever you call it, a dictum's come down that he's not allowed to use the radiophonic workshop. So although he's using electronic elements, he's not collaborating with the radiophonic workshop. So there's a style here which is the beginning of the style that you associate with the Hinchcliffe years. The music starts to sound in this season as it does throughout the Hinchcliffe years, where it's more conventional instruments than synthesizer. So there's a lot less synthesizer in it, but there's little bits like there's fantastic sort of like a bleeping sound. There's this alarming sort of electronic sort of bleep which he uses with links at certain points. There's just little bits of electronic in it, which it's a lovely blend, I think. Because I love Dudley's music for the Hinchcliffe era, and this is where it starts. Just sound of that period. So that's a shift as the title sequence changes. The music's starting to change, in tune with the coming era. Does that make sense? You've gone very quiet. What are you fucking talking about?
I mean, I think Dudley is so good at his job that you almost don't notice it sometimes because it's like never intrusive.
No, it's never intrusive. It's never intrusive. He's always absolutely tied into what's going on. So it's like there are extraordinary scores. Like we were talking about the Newtons last time, where it's almost like Tristram Carey's watched a different story. The music's doing something else, something that doesn't seem to be relevant to what's going on.
It's complementing it all so well that you're focusing on the scene that much more because of it, rather than focusing on
But if you stop to think about it and analyze it, you go, oh, that's really brilliant what he's done there. The way he's absolutely augmented the drama or the melodrama of the cliffhanger. That with when Link says bang, dang, 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 and then into the cliffhanger. It's just absolutely sublime. So we give it a solid 5. I don't know how we score these things.
Quintessential.
It is, and it's one of the greatest introductions to it is
one of the greatest companions.
I think. She is hands down the greatest companion as far as I'm concerned.
I think she's the quintessential one.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I have,
but without being formulaic.
No, because I was there, and that was and it became rather like the Doctor and Joe with Pertwee, the Doctor and Sarah. It seemed inconceivable when she left.
What do you think of a dynamic between her and Pertwee?
Well, it's different, isn't it? And of course, she became, I think, more comfortable with Tom. They got on better. She said we were from Liverpool. We shared each other's sense of humor.
I think
John was leaving, was missing Katie, but was very, very generous to me and kind of was, wasn't unpleasant or anything like that. but there was the fact that he wasn't that comfortable probably means that she's not as relaxed as she is with Tom, because she has time to grow into the part. I think it works brilliantly. I don't have any problems with it, because she and Tom is that was a conversation I had with Katie Manning, where me and Nick and Katie were talking about, and she'd watched season 17 for the Blu-rays, and she was going, she wasn't impressed. And he said, well, you want to see the early? So she said, well, I know, I've heard, I'd love to see Liz with Tom, because I believe that's like me and John. And both Nick and I simultaneously went, same.
Yeah.
It is. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, on season 13. Was behind the scenes.
Well, it's a shame, isn't it, that they're hauled in to see these things, because they're all cut down and all talking over it, and but then if all you see of the Tom Baker is season 17, that's not a great indicator of its strength, is it?
I think for me with Sarah, though, I prefer Sarah with the Third Doctor, but I prefer Liz with Tom Baker, if that makes sense.
Wow.
I think the character is stronger in season 11, but Liz,
what you mean? She's got more, to use the current phrase, agency.
Yeah,
I think there's more bite, I think, to Sarah.
I think it's wonderful the way she plays off of the Third Doctor as well, in that he can be very teasing of the feminism side of things, where he's like, good, we need someone around here to make the coffee and stuff. Never disparaging remark, but he knows the buttons to push.
Probably the most disparaging one is when she says she's prepared to believe him, and he says, "Oh, that's very, very generous, especially coming from one of the fairer sex." So it's unlikely for a woman to relent in such a situation. What does she say in reply?
Or he could be changing sides to save his own skin. And it's like the way she says it, it's very much, don't you forget, I've got the power. I'm friends with the nobility. You start
what's very
head chopped off.
Yeah, what's very interesting is that Barry was very, 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 very keen, to use his own favorite phrase, very, 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 very keen to incorporate progressive representation, as to use the current phrase, and to sort of have a more liberated companion after the brilliant though she is, sort of bimbo-esque Jo Grant, to have a character who is actually her own woman outside of the parameters of the program, and has convictions and isn't afraid of polemicizing about them, but that's very much Barry, isn't it? And neither Philip or Bob are at all interested in that, and so it goes. But it's like Liz wasn't interested in it either, as she says. So it's interesting that the sort of the strength of the character in that first season with Pertwee is it's there in the writing. I think the writing's a bit clunky with it. It's a bit sort of try hard, but she's such a remarkable actress that she manages to sort of make it sound natural.
For me, it's only really a bit clunky when it comes to Monster Peladon.
It's a bit clunky in this one of those, wasn't it?
I would say certainly not to that same extreme.
No. Maybe not to the same.
And Invasion of the Dinosaurs is where it's at its best.
Yeah. So you miss her being, or you think do you think she's got more to do in this season than she does later, in a way?
In some ways, yeah. She's much less the damsel in distress within a lot of this season as well. Like, you don't have her getting hypnotized left, right, and center.
No,
but there's something about the warmth between the performance of Tom and Liz, the way how in tuned they are together.
It's just magical chemistry,
Yeah.
and it's difficult for me to be. It's
infectious.
difficult for me to be objective about any of this stuff because I'm fonder of both the Pertwee.
But ultimately, we're not here to be objective. We're here to
No, but you
have
try
our own
to be. No,
subjective.
but we do
yeah.
try. We try to be, don't you? You try and analyze it. I keep trying with these things to separate myself from my, ineluctable affinity. Sounds like something Tom would say. Ineluctable affinity, with the material, and go. Let me just try and erase 50 years of devotion and adoration, and try and look at this with a dispassion, and to try and analyze it sort of as though I'd never seen it before.
Yeah. I think it's important to be subjective, but know you're being subjective.
Yeah, when you can't ever not be subjective, but I think it's very nice of you to try. Yeah, it's interesting. I think with that in mind, actually, I'm going to read, because I think this whole season, Nick was watching Invasion of the Dinosaurs. And I said I was just about to watch a Davison story. He said, "Why would you want to do that?" And Peter Davidson, and I said, "Oh, now you've got me all enticed to watch Invasion of the Dinosaurs." He went, "Do." So I'm going to watch the whole season. I'll watch that with that in mind, comparing the Sladen performance, or the writing and the performance with Tom Baker. But I think she's there's never been nobody's ever inhabited the companion to the extent that Sladen did.
No,
she is as much Sarah Jane Smith as she is Elizabeth Sladen. It's a completely compelling, charismatic, and seductive performance in every way. That was that I just love that the way that I said to you and to Nick when I'm looking at the interview, the way Nick standing there interviewing in Peck Fork, and just the way he's looking at her, and I never met her, but it's just that he can say he can't quite believe he's talking to this extraordinarily sort of, you can't believe they're real. It's just a pure fan look that he's giving it, which is just to there's nothing sort of it's
hard to believe it's been more than 10 years since she left us.
A particular emotion, isn't it, that we have towards these characters, these people who played these characters. One of the reasons why I don't want to meet Tom Baker, or the ones that might be difficult.
Yeah,
it's wonderful when you've got somebody who's probably incapable of being in a bad mood, like Katie Manning or Wendy Padbury, or if they are, it's a sort of an act, like Janet Fielding, but
it's not like you can never tell if she's being serious or joking, so you just hope she's joking and get away with it.
Well, whatever, she's always hilarious, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, there's always a sort of an arch twinkle in her eye.
Yeah. I think you give what you get with her as well.
Oh yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. No, she can take it back. She likes banter. Hilarious one. Well, yeah.
Oh, were you going to?
Janet's probably my favourite of the '80s companions. Although I'm sort of, I'm very fond. I'm very fond of Matthew and Sarah Sutton.
What about the yellow redhead? Her lady, one who saw us.
Not really. He never really did it. Never really did it for me.
We could talk about him when we finally get.
I like his bath tap. Obviously, I'm very fond of his bath tap. And I liked his. No, did I like his? I liked the collar of his shirt. The way it was sort of with it, like this sort of scruffy schoolboy, and it never changed. It's hilarious there, wasn't it? It was that everybody wore the same clothes in every single story, and everything was at the same height. It was preposterous, really, but brilliant. What did you say? What was the question?
Oh, what you said you were going to read something, didn't you?
Did I? No, not today. No.
No.
I'm too tired to read something. I had thought I might read the prologue. Prologue. To
Log
turn-
Pro.
to talk about, but maybe another time.
Yeah, no.
I
must have missed out there.
More wine.
You're going deaf. Very good. And well, yeah, I think we've covered everything.
And then
And if we miss
reasonable
anything,
3
we'll
hours,
do
20 minutes.
season 11, and we'll.
Today I got alarmed because I thought, oh God, have we agreed to do? Are we going to talk about Time? Are we going to try and talk about every single Elizabeth Sladen story? Because that's beyond my capabilities tonight. But so what are we doing next time?
Who knows?
I don't know.
We're going to
We'll
do season 20 at some point, aren't we?
Yeah, we will have to do.
Yeah, we've got to do that.
Yeah.
And the 5 dogs. We're going to do the 5 dogs. We're going to do that. Or was that?
Yeah, we can do that.
Right.
Do that.
Anyway,
We've got many things we can.
Yeah.
cover.
Yeah. Well, no, it's wonderful. Yeah, no, great to do.
Yeah,
To do.
I
It's,
mean,
it's a rather marvelous. And of course, this was the first. The week before, it must be, so it's the 15th of December. The first time they did that Blue Peter script that they kept doing with always the same clips, which had the clip from the 3 Doctors, but there was always the same script, and each new team, Blue Peter team, would always say the same script with the same clips. But this is the first time they did it to talk about the anniversary. It was the 10th anniversary, and it was the one where Pertwee comes on with a Who-mobile.
I think that's my favourite Blue Peter.
And talks to Peter Purvis, and then they go into that stuff about the history of the program, and they show the clip from the 3 Doctors. I think that was the first time because you remember I said about the 3 Doctors. I saw the 3 Doctors and I remember it, but I don't remember Hartnell. I remember the gel coming out of the sink and Omega, but I just don't remember it being about 3 Doctors. And even the trailer says, the 3 Doctors says, tomorrow evening, the Doctor and Joe face a new threat, the gels. So you think it's called the gels, and there's no mention at all, but it's an anniversary story. So they do that, and they do that, and so that was the first time I realised that's the first Doctor, that's the second Doctor. So it was that. Then that was a couple of weeks, but maybe it was to coincide with the actual anniversary. So it's just before, and they say a new series is going to start in a couple of weeks, which was this.
Right. It's funny talk with my family about Doctor Who. So like while we were watching The Giggle, my mum was asking, have I seen him before when it was the toy maker? And you also had the flashbacks and the awareness that this was a past villain.
Right.
And she...
Well, your mum's not old enough to remember the Celestial Toymaker, is she?
Oh no, definitely.
No.
Well, she would have been around for it, but yeah, definitely not.
No,
able to soak it in at all.
No,
yeah,
no. She'd be very, very small.
Yeah.
And
certainly sort of like comes in and out while I'm watching Doctor Who stories. I mean, even with the Time Warrior, while I was rewatching.
Well, she's almost.
It keeps going, doesn't it? It's rather good.
She watched it, did she?
Not really. Just sort of like came
Popping
in and
in
out while it was on. I think while getting ready to go out. But certainly was paying attention. She said, "Is that Derek Jacobi when Professor Rubish was on?"
He does look a bit like Jacobi. Yeah.
I think so.
No, that's.
But I mean, it's funny because
Donald
you do have.
Pelmier.
You will have actors like that who do turn up in Doctor Who.
Oh yeah.
Well,
she will have seen Michael Gough in many things, no doubt. I'm sure she remembers his fantastic performance in Arc of Infinity. I mean, who could forget that story?
Totally not the bad guy.
Yeah. Obviously, not remembering.
Well, it's a complete surprise, that, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, obviously not remembering story titles and things or even episodes. We were sort of like discussing about the toy maker and such. She's like, is he the one in the one where they've got that little glass bowl thing where there's things trapped inside? Talking about Carnival of Monsters.
Oh right, yeah, right.
And she always remembers that one as the one on the ship where things keep repeating.
What does she remember? Does she remember it was 73 or from Five Faces? Or watching it
no,
with
not
you?
from me. From when I've been watching
it with you, right? Yeah.
And I think she thinks I watch that one maybe more times than I do because of how many times it recycle. Yeah,
right.
So it seems like, but yeah. So she was said about that, and I was saying, yeah, Carnival of Monsters, the one where they're on the ship. She goes, no, it's not the one where they're on the ship. It's a different one. And I was sort of like trying to convince her that no, the one on the ship and this is the same one because of that connection.
Right.
Obviously,
Oh, I see.
Where she's just come in and out during different bits. It's not quite
a different story. Yeah,
it didn't quite click.
Well, no, but that's the magic of that story.
Yeah, it is
because and that's let's not again. How do you rate the Pertwee era? It's so difficult. That's a phenomenally good story, and the conceit of it is just mesmerizing. And gradually trying to piece it together. My son, it was lovely to see my son, when he realized, oh God, they're inside that bloody machine. It was his delight at the finding out the idea for the first time, to see a child sort of go, oh wow, that's amazing, it's wonderful. No, he delivered time after time, didn't he? From Spearhead, Terror of the Autons, Carnival of Monsters, Time Warrior, Ark in Space, Pyramids of Mars. I mean, of course, he's probably writing lots of what's going on in the other stories as well, isn't he? And Deadly Assassin, Tons of Wayne Chang. It's not so brilliant after that. Oh no, Caves of Androzani. I don't think it's the greatest story of all time. I never quite understood why it's the greatest, but I think it's very, very strong. I
think the bleakness of it probably helps it stand out because
it's utterly cynical. It's I suppose that's one of the reasons why it's not to its detriment, but there's no warmth in it. I suppose the warmth is Davison. But there's nobody's likable.
It's very much contrast with a lot of what Doctor Who was doing. I think it gets the balance right, whereas then I feel like some stories, like maybe Vengeance on Varos, which I do really enjoy. Yeah, Resurrection as well. Well, no, actually, that came before, but yeah, it does.
But it's all leading up to sort of
Resurrection and Caves on Rosani, the strongest stories of that season by far.
I think like other stories try to emulate what Caves did.
Yeah.
But they miss a certain something. Maybe it's Graham Harper's direction.
It's Graham. I think it's Graham Harper. I think if Graham Harper, unfortunately, Vengeance on Varos has got probably the most God rest his soul, but probably the most mediocre director of that era. Ron Jones, who just really was by numbers. So if Vengeance on Varos had Graham Harper, I think it would have been a different. It would be on another level. I think it's Ron Jones' best effort, but there's there's just there are standout directors in that era, aren't they? Obviously, Peter Grimwade, Graham Harper are sort of they're on another level as directors. It's stepping.
They're ones who feel like it's more than just a job.
Yeah, there are other sort of there are other imaginative directors, very good directors. I think John Black's very good with Traken and Fort of Doom's actually, and Peter Moffat is underrated because of Peter Davison never sort of going on and didn't know what was going on. But I think with the way he shoots, the way he uses the camera. Is often incredibly inventive, and they're always well cast. And the only dud, although I am a fan of it, is Twin Dilemma. That's not his fault. It isn't the best script of all time. But I think one of the Peter Moffat stories, State of Decay, The Visitation.
State of Decay is a very strong one.
Very strong. Very, very strong. You know,
Do you do Five
beautifully
Doctors?
directed. And the way he's got the way that the actors moving. You know, that sort of that dance-like quality that he has with them, and the way he's the only director. Peter Moffat, maybe Grimway does it as well. In State of Decay, he's got a crane shot in the TARDIS. He suddenly makes the TARDIS. Tom's researching the history of the vampires or whatever, and he's got a crane shot, and suddenly the TARDIS is a much more interesting space than when they've just got the bloody, like the proscenium arch of just the camera's facing the console, the actors on. He's given it this sort of height. Maybe Grimwade does it in
I think it works for Tom's horror while looking at it's not just an interesting shot for interesting shot's sake.
No.
It's one
absolutely.
that complements the story being told.
Oh, it's absolutely right for the moment, and again I'm sort of, the way he shoots in Visitation. There's a lot of really inventive camera work in that. The sort of the opening. Was it you talking about the opening of the opening of this of Time Warrior? And then
you sort of get a POV of the pterodactyl, don't you, as well?
Yeah, no, it's very, very, very effective. And then what's the next one? Is it Mordrin? Which is,
yeah, it would be Mordrin.
That's really well directed, Mordrin Undead. That's probably the best directed story of that season, which is not saying a great deal.
We can go more into that.
We can indeed. And then it's 5 Doctors. I mean, you can't argue with the fight. You couldn't have done a better. There's. If he hadn't done a decent job on it, it wouldn't be so well remembered or loved.
Well, JNT did the best bit of directing in 5 Doctors.
I know. There's the rust on. I know. Well, he was in the wrong job, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, like Barry gets up there, don't they?
Yeah. No, that is an interesting.
It's funny that JNT never really went for a directing post on Doctor Who.
I think I was astonishing that Barry managed to find the time to direct and write and produce. The idea of being the showrunner, you just have to be. There's so many plates you have to be spinning, and to direct as well would be, tantamount to impossible.
And to do it all and to come out with such a strong show at the end of it,
I know.
Tribute to his many skills.
Marvelous! One of the great human beings. Are you working tomorrow, Luke?
No, I am not.
Are you working tomorrow, Ben?
I'm not.
Excellent.
We're not. Yeah.
Am I working
too late?
Am I working tomorrow? No, I'm not working tomorrow. I'm working on Sunday. But I'm always working at something. But no, lovely evening.
Yeah.
I was feeling quite trepidatious about this earlier on with the state of my head. But
your head looks fine to me.
It's been very well inside, Luke. Inside.
Oh, I thought there was a accident with a barber.
No, not recently. Although I will be having my hair cut next week. Thanks for reminding me. On Thursday, I think. So, splendid. We shall be in touch soon. If anybody's out there, is there anybody out there? Good night.
Yeah,
God bless.
Collection.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Oh, the Whovian, as I always say, it's never a Pertweesmith live stream without the Whovian with the small collection. What about Daniel? Is he here?
He's popped in.
Daniel has been here.
Oh, bless him.
Daniel Hager.
No,
Is it Hager or Hager?
Yeah, we've never found that.
Ask him.
I have asked before. Daniel, please do let us know.
Because it's important. It'd be awful to be mispronouncing somebody's name.
I mean, it might be Dan Isle.
Yeah, that's true.
It might. Imagine if I called you Luke Strevens. It's difficult to get Morris wrong, isn't it? Probably.
But Ben Maurice.
I get Newman so often. Norman, because Noonan's an odd Irish name.
Ever Stefan?
Oh yeah. Oh God. Oh, endlessly. Or Stephen with a V. I've had Christmas cards from aunts spelling it with a flipping V. You know. Anyway,
betrayed by your own family.
Well, it's a stupid spelling, isn't it? I understand why people want to spell it phonetically and why people see it and think it's Stefan. But it's not.
I think you do have like Stefan, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like
well, that's STFAN.
Yeah.
You know.
But you can get a PHAN.
Can you? Well. Okay. Well, yeah. No, they do that. They'll try and do that with it. You'll see people spelling it. In fact, I've seen it. You know, on in programs for plays have misspelled it.
There's never with pronunciation. There's never a standardized way to pronounce any combination of letters, really.
No, not in English. It's all exceptions and no rules. All right. Sincere sensation as always.
Thank you all for watching.
Yeah,
hope you
all
enjoyed our deep dive into A Time Warrior. 50 years ago today, that first came out. 50 years of Sarah Jane Smith, 50 years of Gallifrey, and of course 50 years of the Sontarans. 50 years of the slit scan title sequence, the diamond logo.
The diamond logo, which is, you know, probably, you know, the most instantly recognizable, the most frequently, of course, now it's back, isn't it? So, yeah. Indelibly associated. Well, I don't know what else to say. Just to if I had a drink, I've got a bit of coffee. Here's to Barry Letts, Terence Dix, Robert Holmes, John Pertwee, of course, and Elizabeth Sladen, to name, but you know, a few of the most significant contributors.
Sadly, none of them
Dudley
with
Simpson.
us any longer.
None of them. No, it's really weird listening to the commentaries. You go, these are all dead. These are all dead. Yeah, one by one they go.
Yeah, I mean, I think have we still got Jeremy Bullock with us?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, haven't we? Has he gone as well?
Yeah, I think he went about 2 years ago.
He never got over not being kept on as a companion.
That's a shame. Yeah, so
yeah, probably the whole cast's gone.
Yeah.
David Dacre can't still be with us, can he?
No, I think he's still around. I think.
Is he?
I think. Yeah.
I'll have a look.
Nice. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, still, 88 years old.
What about John J. Carney?
Ooh, let's have a look.
Is that his name?
Oh, he doesn't.
He doesn't. He never
doesn't have a Wikipedia page.
No,
95. 95, he passed away.
Stars of Harlem.
He passed away in 95 or at 95?
In 95, at the age of 54, sadly.
Oh, shit.
Oh.
Sheila Fay. She's what? Has she got a name? What's the name?
Meg. 2013.
She died in 2013. When did Alan Rowe die? We've got to do the obituary.
2000.
Right.
73.
And we've done Jeremy Bullock. Donald Pelmier. He must have gone donkeys. Mind you, he's actually only in his 40s there.
It's like Trevor Baxter. You think they're older than what they actually are.
Yeah. Or William Hartnell.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Who are you looking up?
Donald Pelmier.
Oh, Donald Pelmier. Yeah.
Yeah.
He must have gone donkeys years ago.
There it is.
Oh, Toby Haydock's done something with him.
Yes, he did. He did one of his podcasts, didn't he? But that was. I think he's died since then. I got a feeling.
Oh, I don't. Nothing's coming up to say he's died.
Okay, maybe he hasn't. June Brown, of course, we lost quite recently.
Oh, born 6th of July, 1924, though. So he's near he's 99 at the moment, if he is still going.
I got a feeling. I got the impression he died. He told me he died anyway. June Brown recently, wasn't she? Was it last year or something?
Yeah, it was quite recent,
110. And Have we missed anybody? Nicholas Courtney, of course.
Nah, sadly no longer with us.
No.
But yet another one new. Over
Terry
10 years
Walsh?
ago now.
Is Terry Walsh still with us?
No, I think he's gone.
Oh God. It's quite
Because he wasn't on the Havoc v Hazo.
No,
documentary,
yeah, that's
was he?
true.
No.
Yeah. And I think they got all the survivors.
Well,
back.
as somebody says, well, most of television and film is the dead entertaining the living. Which is true, isn't it? You know, as time goes on, they're all fucking. There's a friend of mine who used to get depressed by old films. He said, "I just think all these people are dead." I said, best not to think about it, but they're not, are they? They are. They
Moment in
exist
time
eternally.
captured.
Yeah, they are immortal in a sense.
Yeah. No
so
clue
it's
about
good.
Steve Brunswick.
Who's Steve Brunswick?
He's the one who you said should get the Jenny.
Oh!
Regardless.
This is his only known acting credit.
I love him. I think he was just happening to walk past because the bloke hadn't turned up. And so, "Can you mind getting this costume and say these lines?" Because he's got a sort of, I think he's got a Cheshire accent. I got a sense he's probably from Nantwich, just along the road.
Yeah.
And
They forgot to cast someone, so grab a local.
Yeah, it's somebody from the local Amdram.
But yeah,
Steve
there's no
Brunswick,
word
no
on whether or
news,
not-
no news, no news. I'd hate us to have missed anybody. There were no other speaking robber barons, are there? Or Irongron's men.
Who's
What about
Eric? The
Rubish's
character called Eric.
friend?
The character called
Oh.
Eric.
Yeah, Gordon Pitt.
Of course, there was Eric
Eight-
Bloodaxe was a character, wasn't he? Was actually a character in history. Who's the son of Leif Erikson or something. It's back in the Scandinavian, the Norse period. I can't be any more specific than that.
Oh, is he maybe the boy the messenger boy?
Oh, I've forgotten about him. I
He's
always
a
think
speaking
he's
role.
Hal the Archer, but he's not, is he? No, that's
Nah.
right. Yeah, no. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Got well remembered.
You just get a line halfway through saying the messenger to Salisbury died in our dungeons.
Oh,
It's like,
and he
you
was
don't really-
nice, wasn't he?
Yeah. Poor guy.
Oh God. Well, we must justice for him. What's he called? The character? He must be remembered.
Eric? I don't,
Oh,
yeah.
that's Eric, is it?
I mean,
Eric
it's
was
the only
very
name
quick.
on the cast list that I can't place to a character.
No,
Wasn't
I'm
it
guessing
like
you're right.
Professor Morris or Morrison?
Yeah, there is a Morris.
yeah, but he doesn't get a line.
Oh,
I don't.
we've
think
got the second Doctor's sonic screwdriver in this.
Have we?
Yeah, when he's
Oh, the polka.
yeah, the little
Yeah.
pen light.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're great. Irongron and Bloodaxe, they're the sort of names that when you think about them feel a bit on the nose, but you never question it for a second.
No, but they're both actual.
Yeah.
They're both actual names of Scandinavian characters from history. So they're real names, although they don't sound it, but they are.
Yeah.
Irongron's a great name. It's a fantastic name, Irongron.
Right. Well, there we go. We found something else to talk about after we wrapped.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're just making sure we've covered all bases, and
Yeah.
we do. I mean, okay, we've got. I think we can with no disgrace. We've gone past midnight, you know. So you know, we aren't trying to break our own records, are we? So that would be preposterous.
I mean, we love the Time Warrior, but it's no Genesis of the Daleks.
No, it doesn't. No, it isn't. Very good.
Time scales is rather beautifully put. When you speak of someone, you keep them alive.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Their memory
true.
lives on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's not a depressing thing that all these people are doing. It's wonderful that they are forever preserved, and talked about and appreciated. You know, and
finding new stuff to appreciate.
Even the Sentry.
Yeah, even the Sentry. But finding new audiences is a great thing, isn't it, about this series? You know, it's fantastic. Well, it's
now with it all
it's
on
made
player as well.
50 years ago, and then you lads in your 20s, you know, enjoy it as much as I do. I think, you know, it's just it's a remarkable sort of breaker down of generational barriers. It's fantastic. Long may it continue.
Very much so. To be able to discuss it with you as well is a huge privilege.
Yeah,
Just a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it's great. It's great. So it's just it's as we said, you know, I'm approaching it from one direction, you're approaching it from another direction temporally, and so it's a fascinating synthesis of viewpoints.
Yeah, meeting in the middle, just this
great
appreciation.
We both know it really well, but you know, with completely different perspectives on it. So it sheds new light on it for me. And go, oh, right, okay. Oh, I see. All right, you see it like that. Brilliant. Yeah, you know, it's a remarkable.
I mean, quite literally see it in a new color for you, because black and white was your first experience.
Well, no, I love watching. I love watching in black and white because it gives me that free. Yeah, but of course, you know, to see links, that mask works. It works both ways. It works in black and white, but it's just.
But by then they probably weren't sort of making it for black and white, were they? Probably around season 11.
No, by this time I think they got used to color, and I don't know whether they'd actually by this point, because they for ages they had all the monitors were black and white. Yeah. You know, they had one master. They had the master monitor in the gallery, but all the other monitors were black and white, and they were checking sort of these monitors. They were seeing it in black and white for the most part. There was just the one master monitor, which of course the finished product, which was how it was going to be put out. Because you know, I bore endlessly. Most people were watching it in black and white. Barry Letts didn't have a colour telly.
Wow.
At home.
When you said master monitor for the first time, I thought you meant the master's monitor. I was like, what story is that in?
And I don't mean the master and the monitor is Legopolis. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, because in Planet of the Daleks, you mean the scanners black and white?
Yeah, well, and you know, in the Demons,
TV is black and white.
In the Demons, they're watching the rugby or the coverage of the Devil's End in black and white. So you ever see it? You always see a telly; it's always black and white. Oh, no, the Doctor's got a colour telly in Ambassadors of Death, hasn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
The scanner's colour in Three Doctors, isn't it, to get the Bill Hart?
It is. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because to get the Ealing stuff.
Billy Blessing was in black and white.
Pardon?
Because Billy Blessing was in black and white.
Who says that?
Terrence.
Oh, yeah. Yes, the monitor played with great accomplishment by Noel Edmonds, of course.
It was a deal or no deal for him.
Yeah. There was a series he did after Swap Shop called Lucky Numbers, which was terrible. Anyway, I think we're done.
Yeah, we're at the end of our road.
I think so. We are, coming up to 12:10. What time do we start?
I think about 20 past 8, I think.
3.5 hours. 3.5 hours. That'll do.
Yeah, 3 hours, 47 minutes at the moment.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bob. Bless you.
Raise another toast to him.
And it's good but good so far.
In the words of the modern kids, it was iconic.
On the back of the first question, Russell T. Davis says, take the talented Wang Chiang. Watch episode 1. It's the best dialogue ever written. It's up there with Dennis Potter by a man called Robert Holmes. Oh, there you go. No. Have either of you seen the Singing Detective TV series?
No, I haven't.
No.
That's Dennis Potter, 1986. Probably that is the most wonderful piece of writing television series I think I've ever seen. That's an Edge of Darkness. You haven't seen Edge of Darkness, have you? This is what they were spending. This is what they were spending the money on when they were cancelling Doctor Who. This is what they would. Just because the irony, of course, is all the things they were making are amongst my favourite pieces of television. So they were sort of, they had these very ambitious projects. We have ambitious projects, do we not? And we shall discuss them anon.
We shall come back. Oh,
yeah. Well, I'll no
Timescales
doubt.
has seen the Singing Detective.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he
So
has.
we may be uncultured, but our audience isn't.
Yeah, there's absolutely. Well, you're very young. You know, at the moment, that will change with time.
Time marches on.
It does indeed. I'll no doubt speak with both of you before Christmas. I won't sort of say, "Oh, have a nice Christmas," because I'm going to speak to you before that. It's probably so. But
I mean, you can say it to the
a
viewers.
a very Merry Christmas to you all at home. Somebody once said, controversially. Right.
Much to the rage of Ian Levine.
Was that something that enraged him? Was it? Did he not like that? That was one of his.
Was it Ian Levine or Gary?
Is he not a fan of the fourth wall?
I think it was Donald Tosh who was most outraged by it.
Yeah, but one of them was saying, then William Hartnell did the unforgivable and turned to the camera.
Oh, right, okay.
And said, one of them was upset about it. Ruined Doctor Who.
It's extraordinary how many things are unforgivable to so many people, isn't it? I find it very easy to forgive most things, particularly breaking the fourth wall. But anyway, it's
as
time
we said,
to go.
Time marches on.
Yeah, and it's time.
Be.
Our time is up. So
thank you all for watching.
What's that? Time's up. What's that one? That's a Tom Baker one. Is it Time's Up? What's that? Oh, time's running out is Image of the Fendal. He breaks the fourth. Time's running out in Image of the Fendal.
Not even the Sonic Shooter.
Yeah, that is.
But his time's up. His time was up. Is that
State of Decay? No, not State of Decay. It's after someone dies, isn't it? Ooh, that's annoying.
Fang Rock?
No.
Oh,
it's
God.
Planet
it's definitely Tom Baker.
Yeah.
And I think it's Hinchcliffe era Tom Baker.
Not season 12. Oh, Talons of Wing Chang, isn't it? With Magnus Greel, I think.
Is it?
I don't. No,
no, it's not. It's not.
Yeah. Ooh,
doesn't matter.
We can't end until we think of it.
No, we can, because we will be revisiting all these stories, no doubt, in this sort of situation many times, and we will discover it.
Yeah,
like, I'd only just remembered watching this again, Time Warrior, that there's a line that John Culshaw used in that sketch.
I've got City of Death. When he's punched,
time was up.
And then he goes back.
Right, well done. Okay,
well,
you were right. We couldn't finish until we found it. So well done. Well done, Luke. He's irritating, isn't he? Sometimes, Luke, isn't he irritating? But
it's horrible.
Oh God. So
I had a coughing fit. So that's right.
Good.
That's calm.
I hope you bloody die of it. So what am I talking about? I've lost my fucking thread now because you're remembering that line.
Chicken
heart knave.
His time was up.
We'll be coming back to all of these. You were saying,
yeah.
There's a line that John Culshaw borrowed in that sketch he did with Jacob Dudman, which was doing the was he playing the curator as John Pertwee or something like that? It was something to do.
Yeah.
And he says, "What on earth do you take me for?" He says, which is when Sarah says, were they actual, incendiary bombs, or because it's just stink bombs, aren't they? And she says, "What does she ask if what's in them?"
Yeah,
with a few flashes and stink.
Yeah, but what does she thinks in them? Gelignite or something? I don't know. Something actually, something she thinks it's something sort of fatal or whatever. But that's he says, "What on earth do you take me for?" And that was and Culshaw delivered it in that sketch, and exactly he sort of emulated it exactly, very precisely, sort of. And I go, "Oh God, what story is that from?" I remember when he said it, and then I clicked the other night.
Hoover Sport Collection has said this isn't meant to be funny, but it is like you'll try to end the video and immediately start on a conversation.
I know.
Iconic.
It's a bit like my my Auntie Muriel. You can't get her off the bloody phone. And another thing, and then you go, okay, bye then. Bye, Stephen, and give your mum my love. And if I see something, like, oh God, she'll just because she thinks it's impolite to put the phone down, you know. And you think, well, I'll be here at the end of time if I let her, because you have to go, okay, bye, and slam it down eventually. Otherwise, she'll just keep you on forever. But it's not politeness that's keeping us here. It's just the fact that we just can't leave it alone, can we? It's because
we'll be coming back to it as well.
We'll be coming back to what? The Time Warrior.
But Doctor Who in general.
We'll definitely be coming back to
more streams.
We'll certainly be referring to the Time Warrior, no doubt, an infinite number of times.
Yeah.
But for now,
this is it. This is the
Ben,
goodbye.
to Luke, to the Whovian with a small collection, to the time scales from California,
to all the lurkers,
and to all the lurkers, and Daniel Hager if he's there, and the stylish one, and Joe Bowers. I know he's gone to
Toad Faces,
or Daniel Hager if he's
old
Hager.
Toad Face, and the rascal,
chicken heart,
long shanked rascal with a mighty nose, and everyone who knows me. Good night.
Good night.
Just going to finish.